What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 9 EC, Chapter 116 The Operation of the War Machine. Advertise here. Hey, Tom, the Fishman Island is now well constructed. Lin Chen took Tom to walk in the Fishman Island and introduced various newly built buildings. Yes, I feel very happy now that I can see the Fishman Island in such a prosperous state, but... As he spoke, Tom frowned again, and Lin Chen also knew what he was worried about. Are you worried about world government and marine? It's okay, we have the ultimate secret weapon on the Fishman Island. Seeing Lin Chen's confident look, Tom could only dispel his worries. And Lin Chen also talked about another thing. It's just that there are still some things that give me a headache in the Fishman Island today. I brought you here today not only to see the new look of the Fishman Island, but also because I hope you can help me. Seeing Lin Chen's pleading posture, Tom couldn't help laughing and jokingly said, "Is there anything else in this world that can't stop you? What do you need from me, an old man who is half dead?" Lin Chen rubbed his temples and said helplessly, "It's very difficult to deal with Princess Otahime." "Oh, are you worried about her attitude towards world government?" "That's right." Tom rubbed his chin, thought for a while and said, "This matter still needs to be considered in the long term. It is still very difficult to change the concept that a person has established over the years, unless there is something that can seriously stimulate her, and this matter it also has to be about world government." As this so, Lin Chen was also thinking about Tom's words, but it was difficult to think of any good ideas for a while. While walking, the two came to the palace of the Fishman Island. At this time, Tiger was busy dealing with various incidents, while Jinbei on the other side watched the excitement. "Jinbei, it's very pleasant to see you looking so leisurely. Do you want to increase your workload so that Tiger can tell me in private that I am partial?" Jinbei, who was originally very relaxed, suddenly became nervous when he heard Lin Chen's words. He waved his hands and said, "You have wronged me, boss. I only came to see Boss Tiger after finishing today's business." After hearing Jinbei's words, Lin Chen didn't argue with him and turned to look at Tiger, who was immersed in dealing with things. "Thank you for your hard work, Tiger. Now the Fishman Island is in a state of desperate need, and there are many things that still require your attention." Hearing Lin Chen's words, Tiger looked horrified. No, boss, you are serious. I can build the Fishman Island better. I'm eager to do these things. Why bother? Ha ha ha, I feel relieved now. While a few people were talking, several fishmen suddenly hurried in from outside the Dragon Palace. Seeing this, Tiger looked a little unhappy. "Why are you so flustered?" Those few people were out of breath after hearing Tiger's words. "Ray. Mr. Rayleigh has something important to find Madara. I heard it's an urgent matter. A few of us are good at swimming in the water, so let's report first." Lin Chen frowned and said, "When will he come?" "I'm already here." Outside the door, Rayleigh's hair was still wet, her face was indescribably gloomy, and she even had her long sword on her waist. Seeing this, Lin Chen felt something bad in his heart. It made Rayleigh feel like he was facing a formidable enemy, and he guessed that the situation had gone too far. Everyone in the Dragon Palace was also discerning. Tiger waved his hand to disperse the others, leaving only Lin Chen and 5 others in the Dragon Palace. Lin Chen strode towards Rayleigh and asked solemnly, "What happened?" "Something happened in New World. Doflamingo led the Don Quixote family and joined forces with Akoku to attack Crocodile and the others." Lin Chen, who heard Rayleigh, said without thinking, "Even so, they can't succeed. Crocodile and Enel are strong enough to fight. Monet can now deal with Doflamingo, and even if Akoku has Admiral's strength, Crocodile and Enel cannot. He is said to be killed for sure, but the outcome is guaranteed to be a 6-4 draw." Hearing Lin Chen's words, Rayleigh clenched his fists and said, "But, have you forgotten the mission you gave Enel before leaving? And don't forget the cadres of the Don Quixote family and the people brought by Akoku, and Rocinante is not strong enough here, and Sugar and Luo are still 2 children. Will this be a weakness for Crocodile and the others during the battle?" After hearing Rayleigh's words, Lin Chen was stunned on the spot, and even the thoughts in his mind were interrupted for half a beat. Rayleigh reached out and handed a wet piece of paper with bloodline to Lin Chen. When Lin Chen saw what was written on it clearly, his pupils suddenly shrank. "Emergency. Ask for help. Ask for help. When Lord Enel was out on a mission, the island was attacked by unknown persons, and Doflamingo was also involved in the incident. Monet, Rocinante, Sugar, and Luo have lost contact. Suspected moves that Lord Crocodile has never seen appear on the island. The desert pyramid stands on the island. When we were transmitting information from Dressrosa, we found that all contact methods had been cut off. Our Don colleagues who saw this letter immediately requested the support of Master Rayleigh and Master Madara. Request support immediately. Request for help. Dressrosa Breaking Dawn." Looking at the dazzling and scarlet bloodline on the paper, Lin Chen forcibly suppressed the overwhelming emotions in his heart. Others also quickly browsed through the information on the paper, and they were all excited. Tiger and Jinbei quickly said, "Go to support. Boss." Lin Chen took a deep breath and said quickly, Contact Enel first, and be sure to contact him with all your strength. In addition, the news is blocked on the Fishman Island, and the establishment of Dawn on the Fishman Island is unstable. We cannot let them know the news, which will cause people to be distracted. Contact the Revolutionary Army. Show the seriousness of the matter. I hope Long can come. Mobilize people from all over the world to the New World, inform Tezzolo, and send all the available people to the New World. We will mainly investigate 3 directions: the power of Akoku, the whereabouts of the Don Quixote family and Doflamingo, and... With his mind spinning crazily, Lin Chen tried hard to think about the forces that Doflamingo might defect to. The only way to world government and the Holy Land Mariejois. There are very likely traces of Monet and the others in these places. No matter who made Monet and the others disappear, they must be more valuable alive than dead. I just hope that the mastermind behind the scenes will use Monet and the others as bargaining chips. After saying all this, Tiger immediately took action, and the underground forces of Daybreak in the Dark began to slowly operate like a huge machine. And this move will inevitably lead to more things. For a time, many major forces began to frequently inquire about the news, wanting to know the purpose of breaking Dawn's operation this time. After all, every Dawn operation means that something earth-shattering will happen. Chapter 117 Guess. Advertise here. Lin Chen immediately came to the warehouse of the Fishman Island after giving the order. He also obtained information about the Fishman Island's current finances from Tiger. Is that all there is now? Looking at the financial situation in front of him, Lin Chen did not accept it after weighing it. Saving people is more important now, and his current strength is enough. Just as he was thinking about it, Rayleigh came out from behind and urged. Lin Chen, let's go quickly. Okay, let's go now. Before leaving, Tiger and Jinbei also asked to go together, but they were rejected by Lin Chen. The Fishman Island cannot be left unguarded. You must follow my previous orders and wait for my next order. Seeing this, Tiger and Jinbei could only look at them reluctantly, and Lin Chen and Rayleigh also boarded the ship to New World. Just as the two were about to pass the level, an unexpected figure appeared here. Enel. Lin Chen looked at the person in front of him and felt very excited. In front of him was Enel, who was rushing from New World to the Fishman Island day and night. Seeing the looks of Lin Chen and Rayleigh, Enel guessed that they also knew the matter and said, let's go back to Dragon Palace first. Let's talk as we go. Things are a bit complicated. Lin Chen and Rayleigh looked at each other. Seeing Enel's appearance, they were unsure, so they could only return to the Dragon Palace together. Seeing everyone gathered, Lin Chen said, tell me, what happened? So Enel recounted the events of the past 3 days word for word, and everyone roughly understood the current situation. Anyway, Brother Crocodile was seriously injured and he hasn't woken up yet. Boss, the person you asked me to find has also been found. I asked him to help guard them in Dressrosa. He is very strong and a very nice person. You don't need to. I'm worried, but there is still no news about the whereabouts of Monet and Rocinante. Judging from Luo's last description, I was probably taken away by Doflamingo. Lin Chen touched his chin. He had roughly understood what happened and expressed his thoughts. I think Doflamingo has gone to join the world government. Oh, after hearing Lin Chen's words, everyone looked at him, waiting for his next words, while Lin Chen looked at Enel and said, do you remember the first time we met Doflamingo? Enel thought for a while and said, was it when we were at North Blue? I seem to have some impression. Does it have anything to do with this matter? Lin Chen continued to talk about his thoughts. I remember asking Doflamingo what his dream was, and his answer was to return to the Holy Land of Mariejois. I guess he wanted to go back there and become a real celestial dragons. But this time I think world government is behind him. The backer. It is very possible that he would trade Monet and Rocinante for the opportunity to return to Mariejois, an opportunity he would not miss. Rayleigh nodded after listening to Lin Chen's analysis and said, it is indeed possible. After all, we killed the celestial dragons in East Blue before. The world government has not yet settled the accounts with us. This time is also a good opportunity. Enel was still a little confused and said, then how should we save Monet and Rocinante now? Lin Chen said, these are still my guesses now. Let's go to Dressrosa first, check on Crocodile and the others, and comfort Sugar and Luo by the way. Enel and Rayleigh nodded, and the 3 of them got up and rushed to Dressrosa, leaving Tiger and Jinbei on the Fishman Island to provide convenience for those who were rushing to the new world from all over the world. At the same time, Mariejois also had an uninvited guest. Stop. This is Mariejois. Bah, Mariejois, I haven't been here for many years. Ah. The guards outside Mariejois looked at the crazy laughing madman in front of them and were a little unsure for a moment. But when he looked at Doflamingo's increasingly familiar attire, and then thought about the Tiantianjin robbery incident that caused a lot of commotion in Mariejois a few days ago, he suddenly remembered it. What? Doflamingo. The banished celestial dragons are back. Doflamingo, who was still smiling, suddenly stopped smiling, and the curvature of the corners of his mouth became wider and wider. Celestial dragons expelled by. Soon a hint of cruelty flashed in his eyes, and the guard also fell in a pool of blood. Doflamingo's arrogant back was still in his eyes. Chapter 118 Negotiation. Mariejois Center Conference Room. The 5 elders had received word when Doflamingo broke into Mariejois, and they were talking about it. We haven't gone to him to settle the score yet, but he actually came to us on his own initiative. Although I am also very angry about Tianshangjian, but let's listen to what he has to say first. I also agree to listen to what he says first. The information we have inquired about earlier has already explained the situation. He said that he has something in his hands that we value so much that he must talk to us personally. I am curious about what he has. Listen to him first. If you are not satisfied with the result, you will also have to settle the account for the gold deposit that day. While the 5 elders were discussing the news of Doflamingo's operation, he also came to the door. Doflamingo, please see me. Arriving at the door, Doflamingo opened the door and went in before the guard finished announcing. Hey, it's still the same here, even you guys haven't changed at all. Bah. Doflamingo ignored the extremely dark expressions on the 5 elders' faces and found a seat to sit down on his own, looking extremely arrogant. Don Quixote Doflamingo. When one of the 5 elders saw Doflamingo acting so arrogantly, he suddenly became angry. Just as he was about to recruit someone to take him down, he was stopped by another 5 elders. Listen to what he wants to say first. Now that he is in Mariejois, it is impossible to escape. The 5 elders gave Doflamingo a complicated look. He once had a good relationship with Doflamingo's father. He was a good man, but not a good celestial dragons. Doflamingo's expression calmed down a bit after seeing the 5 elders, and the 5 elders also said. Tell me, we have received the news before that you have something very important to us. If it satisfies us, we cannot hold you accountable for robbing the gold from the sky, and you can leave here safe and sound and continue to be you. Shichibukai. After hearing what the 5 elders said about robbing the heavenly gold, Doflamingo's face turned a little darker. It was clear that he had not benefited at all, but he had to bear all the bad reputation. This was hard for anyone to accept. But thinking about the purpose of his coming, Doflamingo grinned and said a little crazy, I'm not here for any bullshit heavenly gold things. I want to return to Mariejois. Restore my status as a legitimate celestial dragons. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. The other 5 elders were shocked when they heard Doflamingo's words, but they soon returned to normal. After all, this guy came here with his father's head a few years ago and asked to restore the identity of the celestial dragons. They were even more shocked then than they are now. HMPH. It is a shame for your father to be a celestial dragons. He wanted to leave the Holy Land at the beginning. You have seen the final result clearly. Those untouchables will not be merciful because of your kindness. Doflamingo clenched his hands, suppressing the anger in his heart and said, Don't you want to listen to the information I have? No matter how much you know, you can't come back Mariejois. After listening to the words of 5 elders, a sarcastic smile suddenly appeared on Doflamingo's lips. Yeah, even the celestial dragons will be killed like pigs. Bah. The expressions of the other 5 elders changed. The East Blue incident will always be a pain to the world government and a shame to the celestial dragons. The 5 elders who had a good relationship with Doflamingo's father sighed inwardly, waved his hand to stop the other colleagues who were about to have an attack, and said, First tell me about the bargaining chip you have. Seeing that the topic finally returned to the main point, Doflamingo also became serious. I had been so strong before, but in the final analysis I still hoped to take the initiative, so that I might be taken more seriously in the subsequent negotiations. The information I hold is a very important opportunity for you, the news about daybreak. Hearing Doflamingo's bombshell as soon as he opened his mouth, the faces of the 5 elders finally became solemn, and they continued to look at Doflamingo to signal him to continue. It all starts with gold from the sky. Doflamingo then recounted the incident, of course completely from the perspective of an innocent victim, and also smeared daybreak a bit. After listening to Doflamingo's narration, the 5 elders were all stunned, which was somewhat beyond their expectations. Seeing the group of 5 elders still immersed in shock and unable to extricate themselves, Doflamingo flashed a hint of disdain in his eyes and said again, I also saw what Madara and Rayleigh destroyed Eni's lobby a few days ago, and I just took advantage of this opportunity. The combined Akoku attacked Crocodile and the others. As of now, this is a great opportunity to destroy Daybreak. Don't you cherish it? As one of the main strong men in Breaking Dawn, Crocodile is seriously injured and on the verge of death. Madara and Rayleigh will definitely rush to Dressrosa after hearing the news, and there is a 90% chance that Enel will be there as well. In the past, Dawn's whereabouts were strange. This time it was rare that I stayed in Dressrosa for a while. I also took this opportunity to hit them hard. If you don't seize this opportunity, then Dawn will definitely become the most troublesome enemy of the world government in the future. The 5 elders looked at each other and said, I believe you, but didn't I hear that they also have Monet and Rocinante? And if we remember correctly, Rocinante is your brother. Before Doflamingo could say anything, one of the 5 elders said, this guy could even kill his biological father when he was a child. Do you still expect him to have any feelings for his younger brother now? Ha 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 ha. Bah. Doflamingo also laughed and said, Rocinante. That guy who betrayed me, if I hadn't seen that he was still useful, I would have killed him long ago. The five elders' laughter stopped abruptly. Doflamingo's words contained a lot of information. One of the five elders said, "Could it be that Rocinante is in your hands?" Doflamingo said nothing, but a playful smile appeared on his face. "Let's not talk about this matter for now. The news I just provided is a valuable asset to you. You must know that the hardest thing to buy in the world is time. If the news reaches your ears normally, especially now that your underground forces have been destroyed, it will be difficult for you to catch dawn." The five elders pondered for a while, and finally said, "Your information is indeed valuable, but it alone is not enough for you to return to the Holy Land. Let's go, we can give you the legitimate Shichibukai status." After listening to the words of the five elders, Doflamingo was not angry and said, "It seems that the prestige of the world government has become weaker and weaker. Even if the celestial dragons are slaughtered like dragon pigs in front of the whole world at dawn, you will not take any action." The five elders ignored Doflamingo's clumsy provocation and said, "You don't need to worry about the world government. Don't forget that you are just an expelled celestial dragons now." Doflamingo put his hands on his chin, a cruel smile on his lips. "Really? Even if I have the core members of Daybreak in my hands?" Chapter 119 Secret. The five people looked at each other and immediately said, "What do you mean by this?" Doflamingo stood up and was about to leave. "I am already an expelled celestial dragons. The face of the world government and celestial dragons has nothing to do with me. I am going to be a Shichibukai." After hearing this, the faces of the five elders changed. Doflamingo's move of retreating in order to advance had to make them lower their posture. After all, their hatred for Dawn is very powerful. Now that they have such information in their hands, they maybe something can be done. "Doflamingo, don't be so outspoken. I hugged you when you were a child." The previous five elders looked at Doflamingo with a smile and said, and the other five elders also agreed. "Yes, it's not time for the negotiations to break down yet. We can sit down and talk about anything. After all, judging from your previous description, Dawn is also your enemy, isn't it?" Doflamingo looked back at the group of five elders and cursed in his heart. "Now you know you have a good talk with me." He could clearly see the five elders' attitude of not taking him seriously before, but seeing their formal appearance now, Doflamingo did not think about hitting back at them, and instead talked about his own interests. "I want to return to Mariejois. Restore me as a legitimate celestial dragons." The five elders looked at each other and said earnestly, "Brother Ming, it's not that we don't agree with this matter, it mainly depends on what the celestial dragons think. There are so many celestial dragons in the family. If they don't accept you, even if we agree there is no other way, don't you think? Why don't you hand over the core members of Daybreak to us first, and we will try our best to handle this matter for you, how about that?" Doflamingo said coldly, "What is the use of those useless celestial dragons? Why should I care about their opinions now? The pinnacle of celestial dragons is you. As long as you agree, I will have a way to deal with those celestial dragons. At this time, if you are still being hypocritical to me, then there is no need for us to cooperate." The five elders thought about it for a while, and finally seemed to have made up their minds. Today's Dawn is the real enemy we face, and its danger level even exceeds that of the Revolutionary Army. From this point of view, even restoring Doflamingo's status as celestial dragons is very worthwhile, how about it? Indeed, if we can take this opportunity to deal a heavy blow to Dawn, we can at least give the Revolutionary Army a severe shock. We can take this opportunity to deal with them together when the time comes. Seconded. The results were given after several people discussed it. Finally, they looked at Doflamingo and said, "We agreed to your conditions. Now it's time to talk about who you have in your hands, right?" Hearing five elders answer, Doflamingo's grin grew wider and wider, and he also let out bursts of strange laughter. "Bah!" The five elders looked at Doflamingo quietly, and Doflamingo quickly recovered and said, "I have Monet and Rocinante in my hands. When your documents are officially issued, I will naturally hand them over to you. Don't think about it before then." As he spoke, Doflamingo threw a phone bug to them, which contained the images of Monet and Rocinante. The five people looked at it carefully, and finally a happy look appeared on their faces. "Your matter will be solved soon. Now go and prepare to bring them over." After listening to the words of the five elders, Doflamingo stood up and was about to leave, but before leaving, he gave the five elders a meaningful look and said, "When you have Monet and Rocinante in your hands, think about the Daybreak. How did you execute the celestial dragons in East Blue? Maybe you can also gain something." Bah, bah, bah. As if he had thought of something, a look of hatred suddenly appeared on Doflamingo's face with his back to the five elders, and he said, "It is very possible that we are still on Dressrosa at dawn, so we should take the opportunity to eliminate them all. If you are afraid of making a mistake, why not let Kizaru rush over to confirm the information first? We will definitely be able to eliminate them with that national treasure by then, blah 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 blah." After saying this, Doflamingo left the place without looking back, leaving only the five elders looking at each other in the conference room. The method he mentioned is very feasible, what do you think? It's indeed a good suggestion, but what did he mean by what he said earlier? A flash of light flashed in the eyes of one of the five elders, and he said, After we bring the criminals Monet and Rosinante, we will execute these two heinous criminals in front of the whole world. We will severely attack the forces of Daybreak, save the face of the world government. I see. Then the 5 elders discussed for a while, and finally came up with an effective plan. As if they had planned it, the 5 elders left this place together and headed towards the depths of the Holy Land. Before leaving, they did not forget to send someone to notify Sengoku, asking Kizaru to go to Mariejois immediately, saying that there was an important task that needed him to perform. This also made Sengoku confused for a moment. He looked at the conference room and there seemed to be no Kizaru today. So Sengoku looked at the adjutant who had been following Kizaru in the conference room and asked, "Why haven't you seen Kizaru today?" The adjutant thought for a while and said, "Kizaru Admiral said that he had something to do today and seemed to have gone to the archives to get documents." Sengoku frowned and said, "Tell him to come over immediately. I have something to tell him." Yes. Seeing the adjutant trotting out, Sengoku also felt a little confused. That guy Kizaru is usually so lazy. What can he be so worried about now? It seems like he has been like this since he came back from Eni's lobby. After thinking about it for a while, Sengoku couldn't figure out the reason and could only throw it away. Kizaru on the other side has arrived at the deepest level of Marine's archives. All important information files since the founding of Marine are stored here without exception. These files are placed at the deepest level, so you can imagine their importance. Only the Marine Marshal and the 3 admirals are qualified to review it, and even Garp, a Marine hero with even greater influence than the admiral, does not have this power. It's just that Sengoku usually shares information with him, and Garp doesn't particularly care about it. Kizaru Admiral, please come inside. The guard outside the archives saw Kizaru go through more than a dozen complicated procedures and let him go. Finally, he silently stood at the door to perform his duties. When Kizaru entered the archives room, many of the files here had accumulated a layer of dust. Looking at the various information on the file shelf, Kizaru finally came to a very secret corner. The file documents on it looked very old, and the words on it could be vaguely seen through a dim light. Vice Admiral Lin Chen Chapter 120 Kizaru's Doubts. In the dark and silent archives room, the only sound was the sound of Kizaru flipping through papers. It's really distressing. Touching his chin, Kizaru showed a hint of sadness on his face. Vice Admiral Lin Chen. Confidentiality level D. Abilities. Good at using fire and thunder moves. He also used water moves on the sea. He has superb swordsmanship. Both the one-sword style and the two-sword style are extremely powerful. He developed powerful sword skills at the age of 17 and taught them to several people. It is suspected that he masters Wanokuni ninjutsu, has powerful physical skills, and can use physical skills to release powerful attack moves. He has a speed comparable to Kizaru, suspected of spatial movement. Experience. Entered Marine School at the age of 12 and was taught by Zephyr. Within 5 years, he showed extremely strong talent and was hailed as the first emerging Marine genius. He later graduated from Marine School and was awarded the rank of Rear Admiral. The first mission is to defeat the violent ape Gesha. The second mission is to attack Gecko Moria, one of the Shichibukai, and is punished by the world government. The third mission is to investigate the New World Red Hair Pirates, and then took the initiative to attack the Beast's pirates, strangled Kaido's men, and was attacked in retaliation, leaving him seriously injured. In view of his experience, in order to expand Marine's combat power in the New World, Admiral was nominated, codenamed Silver Dragon. Later, due to excessive injuries, he unfortunately died on the way back to Marineford. His subordinate Marine was also attacked by unknown pirates and all of them were killed. Looking at the document in his hand, it was just some ordinary details about Lin Chen's identity, but Kizaru knew that Lin Chen's experience was more than that simple. Why are there no documents from the original Battle of Marineford? Was it taken away by the world government? Tapping the document with his fingers, Kizaru focused on the last item on Lin Chen's abilities. Has speed comparable to Kizaru, suspected of space movement. Is space moving? How did Madara leave at that time? How could there be no shadow just relying on pure speed? Silence returned to the archives room, and even Kizaru's weak snoring sounded a little loud. Kizaru Admiral, Marshal Sengoku summons you urgently. He said there is an important mission for you to perform. The adjutant's voice outside interrupted Kizaru's thinking. Kizaru thought for a moment and said, I know, I'll go right away. Yes. Then Kizaru took Lin Chen's documents to the door of the archives room, and went through a series of complicated procedures before extracting them, and the guard beside him also swallowed his saliva. Kizaru Admiral, please be sure to keep this D-class document. As the highest level confidential document, please return it immediately within 1 month, and do not leak any information inside, otherwise it will be handled in accordance with the confidentiality regulations. If you want to extend its time to ask Marshal Sengoku for instructions. Kizaru shook his hand and said lazily, I know. Kizaru then went to the Marine high-level conference room, where many high-level figures gathered. As soon as Kizaru entered the door, he saw so many people gathered again. He shrugged and said, it's rare that so many people gathered again. We just completed the mission of Eni's lobby a few days ago. Marine really didn't even have a day off. Hearing Kizaru's muttering, the corners of Sengoku's mouth twitched. Ignoring Kizaru, Sengoku looked at everyone and said, "Now that everyone is here, let's start this meeting." Before starting, Sengoku also informed him about the 5 elders summoning Kizaru, and then said, "With your ability, it won't take long to rush over. Let's listen to the content of this meeting first." After hearing Sengoku's words, Kizaru found his own seat and sat down, took out his nail clippers and started cutting his nails, as if he had nothing to do with anything. Sengoku had long been accustomed to it, and then showed several pictures on the big screen. If you look closely, you can find that these pictures are of the same thing taken from different angles. The picture is a bit blurry, but you can vaguely see a triangular tower-like structure standing straight on an island. This is Dressrosa. This picture was taken by our intelligence officers where a battle was suspected. After hearing Sengoku's words, Aokiji raised his head and said, "There should be wars everywhere. There are many strong people in this world. Is it worth gathering us all for such a thing?" But Sengoku looked solemn and said, "Of course, this tower was made by Crocodile." Hearing the name Crocodile, the 3 admirals raised their heads at the same time. Even Garp, who had been picking his nose, stopped what he was doing, flicked his nose away and began to listen carefully. Looking at the pyramid in the photo, Sengoku said angrily as if he had thought of something, "The battle in East Blue half a year ago was a shame." Realizing that he had lost his temper, Sengoku calmed down a little, and then analyzed seriously, "Do you still remember the incident where Eni's lobby was destroyed a few days ago? Although the world government has blocked the news, we all know that it's all done by Madara and Rayleigh." At about the same time, a battle broke out in Dressrosa. Think of another incident in Dressrosa before, the gold in the sky was robbed. There must be some unknown secret in this, and Dawn is the target of this blow. After listening to Sengoku's analysis, Flying Squirrel frowned and said, "It's hard to judge based on just these photos. Wasn't it the guy from Doflamingo who robbed the gold in the sky? What does he have to do with Dawn? I really have to tell you. I guess Rocinante is the only one who can get in touch with him." Hearing Rocinante's name, Sengoku's eyes flashed a little, but it quickly disappeared. "Have you forgotten that North Blue auction a few years ago?" Hearing Sengoku's words, everyone present recalled. Akainu said, "If I remember correctly, the people behind that auction should be Don Quixote family and Daybreak. They had already cooperated at that time." Sengoku nodded and then gave his analysis. "This time it is very likely that Dawn will cooperate with Doflamingo again. On the surface, Doflamingo is in charge of Heavenly Gold, but there must be the shadow of Dawn behind it. And this time traces of the crocodile battle broke out on Dressrosa. Combined with the appearance of Madara and Rayleigh in Eni's lobby a few days ago, it is very likely that Dawn's enemies are targeting them. They are even targeting Tianjin. And they took advantage of Madara's appeared at Eni's lobby with Rayleigh and attacked Daybreak, which was out of strength." But, then Sengoku said the second analysis, which was Crane's analysis. According to Xiaohei, she thinks this time it may be the uneven distribution of interests between Doflamingo and Dawn that led to a war between the two parties. And Doflamingo cannot fight Crocodile and the others on his own, and he must have someone behind him. That's a force that is not afraid of Dawn. Doflamingo used this force to successfully defeat the Dawn members who were on Dressrosa at the time. After listening to Sengoku's words, the conference room fell into a dead silence. Akainu's cigar suddenly burned rapidly, and he punched the table. "Then what are you waiting for? Take this opportunity to destroy the Dawn wave." Etc. A coquettish cry attracted the attention of many people. Guillaume stood up with 2 long swords on his waist and asked, "In the final analysis, these are just 2 guesses. If we rashly launch a crusade based on just guesses, what will happen to them? The risk is too high." Akainu looked at Guillaume and retorted sharply, "When dealing with an organization like Dawn, even if there is a 1/10,000th chance to wipe it out, we must seize the opportunity without sparing any effort. This kind of opportunity is fleeting, why should we turn a blind eye? Watch them continue to get away with it." Just as Guillaume was about to say something, his clothes were tugged down by Hajiu. Strictly speaking, the Vice Admiral had no right to intervene in such a strategic decision. Unless they can be like Garp, and now they can only express their doubts like the Flying Squirrel. Looking at Aokiji Garp Kizaru without saying anything, Guillaume clenched his fists and finally sat down silently. "All right." Sengoku stopped the 2 of them at the right time and eased the atmosphere a lot. "What you said makes sense, and that's what I'm going to say next." Saying this, Sengoku looked at Kizaru, and everyone else also looked at him. This is really troublesome." Seeing Kizaru's appearance, Sengoku said, "I don't think the world government summoned you this time for anything else except the Dressrosa matter. You will never be asked to protect the celestial dragons." Kizaru clipped his nails and said, "That's a possibility." Then Sengoku announced some recent news about Dawn, and finally looked at Kizaru and said, "It's getting late, you should also rush to Mariejois." "Got it." Watching Kizaru leave the conference room, Sengoku also announced that the meeting was over. He thought about it and finally mentioned it. Perhaps some people have a lot of complaints in their hearts these days. Why, as a marine, instead of chasing pirates, we have to do many things around daybreak. I understand you all. But wherever dawn goes, it brings unrest and chaos. They have broken the stable order established in this world for hundreds of years. Those who break the order will cause more serious harm than the pirates. I hope you all I am more aware of the seriousness of the matter, so I will say this, please think about it carefully. Watching everyone leave one by one, Sengoku finally sat quietly in the marshal's office, silently taking out a crumpled photo and a piece of yellowed letter paper from the drawer. In the photo, Rocinante is wearing a red cloud and black robe, smiling happily. Behind her, you can vaguely see the backs of several people, all of whom are wearing the same clothes without exception. The other piece of paper also contains the message from Rocinante. Marshal Sengoku, I have already broken into the dawn, ha 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 ha. The auction battle that happened earlier really shocked me. By the way, in order to save a child, I stole Mumu Fruit and gave it to him. I really hope he can survive. Maybe he will become as good a marine as you in the future. Now we're in the Sabayati archipelago, and this guy Madara is going to find Rayleigh. Madara revealed his ambition before. He is a very ambitious person. He will definitely become a powerful careerist in the future. Okay, let's contact you again in a few days. They haven't discovered my identity yet. I will find out more information about them. Millet Fruit. The news and photos were from a few years ago. Since then, Rocinante has not sent him any news, and he can only know about Rocinante's condition from a few words about daybreak. Rocinante. Muttering softly, Sengoku gradually fell into memories of the past. On the other side, Kizaru also arrived at Mariejois soon, and the 5 elders had been waiting here for a long time. Poor Salino, this is not like your speed. It took so long. Ah, yeah, maybe my strength has regressed. The 5 elders were slightly unhappy when they saw Kizaru's appearance, but they did not show it on their faces. They said, I have called you here because I have a very important task for you. Ah, Kizaru scratched his head and looked at the 5 elders. Could it be that he really wanted to protect the celestial dragons? This time you need to leave immediately for Dressrosa in New World, and bring a few image phone bugs with you. We need real-time information there. After hearing the words of the 5 elders, Kizaru's expression froze slightly, and he also thought of what Sengoku had mentioned to him before, and Sengoku had really guessed it. I understand, go now. Very good. Remember to turn on the phone when you arrive. We will contact you at any time. Taking the phone bug that the 5 elders had prepared, Kizaru disappeared in a flash of light, while the remaining 5 elders looked at each other. That adult takes this matter very seriously. I told you a long time ago that I wanted to tell that adult about the Dawn incident. I should have done this when the East Blue incident happened. It's better now, but I got scolded for the East Blue incident. Oh, I didn't expect that Lord to take Dawn so seriously, but this time they are doomed. By the way, what about Monet and Rocinante? It's easy to handle. Let Kizaru finish surveying the situation and then let the Lord launch an attack. Dawn's combat power will definitely be insufficient by then. We will execute Monet and Rocinante in front of the whole world. From now on, Dawn will no longer be our threat. Ha 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 ha. The 5 elders seemed to have seen how they would destroy Dawn in the future, and they all laughed and fell into longing for the future. New World, Dressrosa. At this time, Yishao was quietly hanging around in the casino, and soon his expression became serious. What a strong aura. There are more than one. When he sensed Enel's figure, he also guessed the identity of the visitor. He estimated that only Madara and Rayleigh would come here at this time. After thinking about it, he silently left the casino with a smile and started to go to the market to buy ingredients. To be honest, he just happened to pass by the casino on the way to buy food, and then happened to stop and watch for a while. This did not affect his purchase of food at all. He was well aware of it. There are 2 children and a patient at home who need to be taken care of by themselves. Enel and the others are also back, and he will buy more today. Chapter 121. A smile. Is that pyramid made by Lao Sha? That's right. Looking at the desert pyramid in the distance, Lin Chen's eyes narrowed. Enel, now that Lao Sha is seriously injured and unconscious, you will be responsible for all affairs in the underground world for the time being. When everyone is almost here, explore the Beehive Island as soon as possible. Enel's eyes flashed with light, and his tone became a little faster. Are you going to attack Akoku? Lin Chen nodded slightly and said, this revenge must be avenged. In addition, Beehive Island is not a good place. The pirates there are much more violent than ordinary pirates. This cancer can also be eliminated by the way, but this is not a good place. We have to wait until we find Monet and Rocinante. While the 2 were talking, they came to where Crocodile was. As soon as Lin Chen entered the door, he saw 2 little ones rushing toward him. Luo and Sutang both looked at him with tears in their eyes telling the hardships of the past few days. After touching their heads, Lin Chen comforted them. It's okay, brother came back late, I'm sorry. I will rescue Monet and Rocinante. As he spoke, Lin Chen winked at Rayleigh, who knelt down and held the 2 of them in his arms, with a look of self-blame on his face. Oh, if only I had stayed here. Lin Chen shook his head slightly and didn't say that much. Everything had happened. The top priority was to treat Crocodile and rescue Monet and Rosinante, who were taken away by Doflamingo. Thinking of this, Lin Chen quickly walked towards Crocodile, and just as Enel said, he was still unconscious with no sign of waking up. Lin Chen inspected Crocodile's injuries and found that he had been pulled back from the brink of death, but at this moment, Crocodile had been unconscious, which also confused him. Then Lin Chen listened to Enel talk about what happened after meeting Crocodile. He also broke into a cold sweat when he heard that Enel used electric shock therapy to electrocute Crocodile, who had stopped beating. When Lin Chen heard that Luo used Op Fruit's ability to rescue Crocodile, Lin Chen also looked at Luo approvingly. After Enel finished speaking, he also looked at Lin Chen with burning eyes, hoping that Lin Chen could figure out a way to wake up Crocodile. Lin Chen glanced at Luo and said melancholy, "If we can't even save Op Fruit in this world, then there is really nothing we can do." Fortunately, Lao Sha's injury is not serious now, he is just unconscious. With Shaw's perseverance, I believe he will wake up soon. The moment he wakes up, it will be the time of his nirvana and rebirth. Seeing this, Enel could only suppress the worry in his heart. He wanted to say that Lin Chen knew that if Crocodile really couldn't wake up, he would not use the last resort unless it was absolutely necessary. "Is it, Mr. Madara and Mr. Rayleigh?" A slightly old voice sounded outside the door, and Lin Chen and Rayleigh turned their heads to look at it at the same time. There was a man with a ferocious X-shaped scar on his forehead that extended to both eyes. It was obvious that this man was the smile that Lin Chen had been looking for, the Paramesha Gravity Fruit Power user, the future Marine Admiral Fujitora. It's Uncle Yishao. Luo and Sugar looked a little excited when they saw Yishao coming back. Yisheng took out 2 marshmallows from behind, squatted on the ground and said with a smile, "These are the marshmallows I brought for you, eat them quickly." Luo and Sugar didn't think so much. They were still reluctant to leave in Rayleigh's arms just now. Now after seeing Marshmallow, they broke out of Rayleigh's arms and ran quickly to the marshmallow they missed. Rayleigh's face looked a little depressed, but he also looked up and down at the blind man in front of him. He was very strong, not weaker than himself. Lin Chen looked back at the unconscious Crocodile and said, "This is not the place to talk, go out and talk." Everyone came to an empty room, and before Yishao could speak, Lin Chen said, "First of all, thank you Mr. Yishao for taking care of Luo, Shatang and Lao Sha these days." After saying that, Lin Chen bowed deeply to Yishao, and Rayleigh Enel did the same when he saw this. In any case, since Enel found no trace of Akoku, he has always been a potential threat. If Yishao hadn't helped take care of the 2 children and injured one, if Akoku attacked Enel again while he was away from Dressrosa, Lin Chen couldn't imagine the consequences. He felt the 3 people in front of him bowing to him. Although he couldn't see the expressions on their faces with a smile, under his observation hockey perception, the gratitude of Lin Chen and the 3 people really radiated from his heart. This is just a simple effort. As a well-known and powerful man in the world, you don't have to lower yourself to express your gratitude in person. Besides, I also like these 2 children very much. I am very happy to get along with them these days. Lin Chen raised his head and glanced at Luo Heshigao, who was eating marshmallows and looking satisfied, with a look of doting in his eyes. Yes, these 2 children are indeed very lovable, but I don't know what kind of person would kill these 2 children. I will definitely avenge this. There was a smile on his face at the beginning. After hearing Lin Chen's words, he stopped laughing. He also said, "I have also heard of the name Doflamingo Heavenly Yaksha. The Beehive Island where Akoku is located is even known as the Paradise of Pirates. These 2 people took action against 2 innocent children, which makes me feel angry." As he spoke and smiled, he took out the sword from his waist that he used as a crutch and slammed it on the ground, as if to declare the anger in his heart. Seeing this, Lin Chen's eyes showed an imperceptible glint, and continued, "Originally, this trip to New World was for Mr. Yisheng. I think in this world, you may be the only one who can truly understand us. Just let me what I can't understand is the eyes of a strong man like you. It's a blessing not to be able to see things. There are too many dirty and despicable people in the world that people can't bear to look at." Yishao naturally heard the implication of Lin Chen's words and gave his own answer. Even after hearing his expected answer, Lin Chen's heart was still deeply touched, and then he said, "Since Mr. Yishao doesn't want to see the dirty things in this world, why don't he change the world?" He raised his head with a smile and looked at Lin Chen with a pair of closed eyes, but Lin Chen felt as if he was really looking at him. "I can only do what I can. Those weak and innocent people, if I can help them, I will do my best to help them." Lin Chen shook his head and said, "Mr. Yishao, you can help people on an island, you can help people in a country, can you help people in a sea? Can you help people all over the world?" To be honest, Lin Chen had some moral kidnapping and smiled, but this kind of person is also the most susceptible to this trick. In order to get a smile, Lin Chen could only use this trick. And Yishao obviously knew that he had been kidnapped by morality and did not refute Lin Chen too much. What Lin Chen said was indeed the truth. He did not have the ability to protect so many people, but he still asked, "According to what you said, is it true? Are you able to protect so many people?" In the Battle of North Blue, how many people will be displaced? In the Battle of East Blue, how many people will be angered by the world government? Celestial dragons died in East Blue. I think the people of the country will have to bear the responsibility no matter what. A responsibility. Not to mention Princess Otahime, who has always been committed to the peace between fishmen and humans. You also occupied the Fishmen Island without hesitation, shattered her lifelong efforts, and completely drove the fishmen and humans to a dead end. Is this the justice that your excellency brings at dawn? Lin Chen listened quietly to Yi Xiao's question and shook his head for a long time. The country of Sika has now changed its name. It has now become a better country than all the countries in the world. The people do not need to pay heavy taxes such as heavenly gold. The people have faith and the country has strength. This is unprecedented in the world. Traveling to any country is impossible, but we did it. The Battle of East Blue and the death of the Celestial Dragons made the people of East Blue countries angry with the world government, but it brought more far-reaching effects. The spiritual shackles of the people of the world have been broken, and that battle 60 to 70% of the pirates in East Blue have been eliminated. In the next few decades, the pirates in East Blue will be in ruins. The people will live a better life. As for the Fishman Island, I have nothing to say. If you can think from the perspective of a fishman instead of thinking from the perspective of Otahime, I think you will gain a lot. Anytime you want to understand the current situation of a race, don't look at the policies set by those at the top, but look at the real living conditions of the people at the bottom. I think most of the Murlocs auctioned at the auctioneer he is the most ordinary and low-level fish man, right? Will you see Otahime being auctioned? After saying all this, Yi Xiao stood there blankly, while Lin Chen looked at him silently, not knowing what else to think about. Chapter 122 The Power of Destruction. Perhaps what you said makes sense, but... Before Yi Xiao finished speaking, the expressions of Lin Chen and others suddenly changed, and they all came to the door. In the distant sky, Kizaru was wearing an admiral cloak, holding a phone bug and taking a picture of Dressrosa. Kizaru, why is this guy here? Lin Chen's expression under the mask was a little solemn. At this time, he didn't want to see any marine. Enel on the side clenched his fists after hearing Lin Chen's worried words, and said with a fighting spirit, I'll go meet him. Lin Chen nodded slightly and said, be careful and see if you can ask anything out of his mouth. Upon hearing this, Enel turned into a bolt of lightning and shot straight into the sky. Kizaru in the distance scratched his head in confusion. It's really troublesome. Although he was talking about trouble, Kizaru's movements were not much slower than Enel's. The two of them were chasing each other in the sky, and it was difficult to tell the winner for a while. Who is he? What a strong aura. Yi Xiao on the side also sensed this powerful aura and asked. Marine Admiral, Kizaru. Rayleigh continued while answering. What is Kizaru's plan? Why does he appear here? Is it too risky for Enel to take action directly? Lin Chenshu squinted his eyes and said, it doesn't matter if Kizaru appears here. What matters is whether he represents marine or world government. The two of them fought for a while in the sky, and Enel kicked Kizaru in the abdomen. Kizaru's whole body suddenly turned into a ray of light and shot away. Anyone with eyesight present could see that Kizaru was obviously letting off steam, and this move was just a step down for both parties. What a scary guy. Let's decide the winner next time. Patting his clothes, Kizaru also knew that it was getting late, so he turned around and left. Enel obviously would not let Kizaru go, and immediately yelled, Hey! Don't leave. What is the purpose of you coming here? Kizaru turned his head and glanced at Lin Chen thoughtfully, and said, Who knows? Then it turned into a ray of light and was about to leave. Universal pull. Lin Chen naturally would not let Kizaru go so easily. He raised his hand and pointed it at Kizaru, emitting a strong suction force from his hand. Feeling the suction behind him, Kizaru's glasses flashed with white light, making his eyes unclear. Yada mirror. 8-foot beautiful Magatama. After dodging Lin Chen's moves, Kizaru immediately launched a counterattack, hitting several people with countless light bullets. Snort. Rayleigh snorted coldly and rushed towards Kizaru with the sword in hand. Tian Kong Yun sword. Facing Rayleigh's attack, Kizaru gathered a long sword from his hand and struck hard at Rayleigh. A circular wave of air erupted from between the two of them, bringing up biting winds wherever it went. Uncle Rayleigh, let me help you. Enel in the distance turned into a thunderbird and flew towards Kizaru quickly, but Kizaru didn't show any panic. First, he elementally avoided Rayleigh's slash, and then he swung his sword towards Enel. A colorless and transparent sword energy caused ripples in the air. Seeing this, Enel felt panicked. He dispelled his thunderbird form and came to Rayleigh. He looked at Kizaru, who no longer had a playful smile, as if he was facing a powerful enemy. How did this guy become so powerful? Rayleigh glanced at Enel and said, he was playing with you before, but be careful now. Hateful. Lin Chen below also saw Kizaru's performance clearly this time, and he was also puzzled. This is the first time I've seen him so serious. Is his strength really hidden? Return. Lin Chen couldn't figure out what Kizaru was thinking for a while. After all, the guy who had been paddling now became serious. Everyone felt something was wrong. After thinking about it, he called Rayleigh and Enel back. Now is not the time to get entangled with Kizaru. Seeing Rayleigh and Enel leaving, Kizaru's eyes showed a hint of disappointment. He tried his best to detect Lin Chen's move, which was not in line with his expectations. On the other hand, this time is also to perform well in front of 5 elders and see if I can get more overtime pay. But at this moment, his mission has been completed, and there is no need to stay here. It seems we can only see you next time. After saying that, Kizaru disappeared into the air instantly without giving Lin Chen a chance to take action. On the other side of Mariejois, 5 elders looked much happier. There are times when poor Salino tries his best, ha 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 ha. You really should give a good reward when you come back this time. After all, it's Marine Admiral. Forget about the berry, just get some valuable items. ... Lin Chen looked at Kizaru's back that turned into a small black dot and shook his head. He sighed and said, don't provoke Marine and world government easily now. Find Monet and Rocinante first. Woo, woo, woo. As soon as Lin Chen finished speaking, several dull sounds came from the sky. Although the voice was gloomy, it was extremely penetrating, as if it was right above Dressrosa. Lin Chen noticed something was wrong with Enel and said, don't be nervous. Enel. Seeing Enel's appearance, Lin Chen and Rayleigh looked at each other and stepped forward to ask. Among them, Lin Chen and Rayleigh smiled and looked a little calmer, but Enel's face became increasingly pale, with beads of sweat constantly remaining on his forehead. Why is the earth shaking? The ground, sky, and sea were all trembling to varying degrees. What did you see? I saw us, all dead. Rayleigh and Enel looked around and asked with some confusion, what is this? What does it sound like? As soon as he finished speaking, something seemed to erupt in the sky higher than the sky, and then a dazzling white light erupted over Dressrosa, covering the entire island. Lin Chen was also a little surprised and confused about this. Even though he was well informed, he didn't know what happened for a while. I just saw something. 10-6 paths the beam of light fell at an extremely fast speed, with the power to destroy the world, and was fiercely inserted into Dressrosa Island. People in Dressrosa didn't know what was going on and ran out of the house to find out. But Enel seemed not to hear anything, the pupils in his eyes kept dilating, and he began to murmur. What happened? At this moment, his lips were trembling slightly. Although his voice was small, the content made everyone feel suffocated. Under such strong pressure, Enel almost fainted, and the facial features on his face became a little distorted, but it seemed that he had awakened some power. Soon a feeling of trembling lingered in everyone's heart, and the seawater in the distance started to ripple and began to surge. Chapter 123. The God of Thunder awakens, the Tsar awakens. Advertise here. Sometimes time passes so quickly that many living beings on Dressrosa are wiped out in an instant. Sometimes time passes so slowly that Lin Chen has already thought about many things in these few tenths of a second. Enel's face still had a pale and weak expression. Rayleigh and Yishao's movements of pulling out the long swords from their waists were still very slow, but the white light above the sky had already reflected in Lin Chen's eyes. God. Not good. Before Rinnegan's move was activated, Lin Chen's eyes could already see the miserable state of the people around him. Crocodile and Enel's bodies were all gone, and Rayleigh and Yishao were lying on the ground not knowing whether to live or die. And a huge hole appeared in his body, and those Rinnegan eyes were full of disbelief. Is this what I've seen? Haven't recovered from the shock yet, attacks from the sky have already followed. At the critical moment, an invisible wave burst out from Lin Chen's eyes, using it as the center of the circle and spreading towards the surroundings. 1 step, 2 steps, Lin Chen walked towards Crocodile's room, and the aftermath of the explosion had already swept over him. Luo and Sugar dragged Crocodile's heavy body as they struggled to walk toward the door. The wall of the room behind them was already in pieces, and the attack above them was about to fall. Faster, faster. The fluctuations emitted by Lin Chen's eye skills were just like his mood at the moment, and he was trying hard to catch the 3 of them. Blood smeared on Lin Chen's face. Crocodile's remains were still in the air, and the beam of light that destroyed the world was also still in place, only a little distance away from the land under his feet. Fortunately, Luo and Sugar rubbed the edge and were enveloped by Lin Chen's time lag range, but half of Crocodile's body was completely wiped out. Within the space of the time lag, Lin Chen's hands began to form complex warlocks, and soon black tadpole-like runes appeared from Lin Chen's hands and dispersed towards the surroundings. The moment the white light beam outside the time lag range came into contact with the black runes, these attacks suddenly disappeared. A moment later, a huge muffled sound erupted from the sea in the distance, and overwhelming waves rushed towards the shattered Dressrosa. Time is reversed. Crocodile's body began to recover slowly, and the blood beads on Lin Chen's mask swam towards Crocodile as if they were alive. Lin Chen stopped until Crocodile's body completely recovered. After everything was over, Lin Chen dared to look up and look around. Except for the space affected by his own time lag, the islands in the distance had been torn apart and began to slowly sink to the bottom of the sea. Occasionally, there are still clusters of red floating on the sea surface, but they soon disappear without a trace due to the impact of ocean currents. Looking at my feet again, I saw that the land under the feet of only a few people existed alone, which seemed extremely abrupt. Untie. A wave of waves spread out again, and there was a sharp pain in Lin Chen's eyes, accompanied by blood spurting out. The blood quickly soaked Lin Chen's collar, but he didn't care at all. It's okay, everyone. Enel bent over and gasped for air. Rayleigh looked at Lin Chen in confusion, smiled and unconsciously clenched the sword at his waist, while Luo and Sugar looked much more confused. Only Crocodile's body fell heavily to the ground without warning. As soon as Lin Chen turned his head and looked around, he felt a dizziness in his head. This was not because of side effects, but simply because he had overused the eye technique. He hadn't used it for such a long time, and the amount he used now was comparable to that of Marineford, so he felt dizzy. Dizzy. Hell Lao Sha up. Take Luo and Sugar, let's evacuate quickly. Covering his head, Lin Chen started making preparations as he spoke. At this moment, on the lonely sea, there was no other plan except Flying Thunder God to allow a few people to evacuate quickly. Ahem. My head hurts so much, it feels like I was thrown to the ground hard. A hoarse voice sounded, and Lin Chen and others were stunned. Uncle Sha, Sugar was the quickest to react among the others. He immediately hugged Crocodile and strangled Crocodile's neck with both hands. The role of the caring little cotton-padded jacket was fully exerted, as if he was trying to strangle Crocodile to death. It wasn't until Lin Chen saw Crocodile's hand constantly slapping the ground that he realized and quickly stepped forward to take the sugar away. Crocodile glanced around unintentionally, first suppressing the shock in his heart, and then looking at the embarrassed people. Even Lin Chen's collar had a strong smell of blood. All this means that something terrible happened just now, but I don't know it, and my memory seems to be stuck at the time when I dragged Akoku away, and I have no idea what happened next. Several other people also noticed something was wrong with Lin Chen, with worried looks in their eyes. Lin Chen waved his hand and said, "This is not the place to talk. Get out of here quickly. This place has suffered such a horrific attack just after Kizaru left. There is no guarantee that there will be a second time. Get out of here." Several people looked at each other and suddenly became nervous, but this was not their fault. After all, only Lin Chen knew the horror they had just encountered. Under the influence of the time lag, their perception lasted only a moment, and the terrifying power brought by the light beam was estimated to be known only to Lin Chen. What's more, what Lin Chen said is very reasonable. They were attacked after Kizaru left. It is impossible not to have any connection, so they must beware of the possible second or even third wave of attacks. Catch me. Rayleigh and others who trusted Lin Chen immediately grabbed Lin Chen, while Yishao seemed a little hesitant. Looking at the smiling expression, Lin Chen said lightly, "Don't you want to find the answer?" Hearing Lin Chen's words, Yishao's face suddenly became dazed, and he raised his hand and gently placed it on Lin Chen. Kizaru. How is Dressrosa? How terrible. Kizaru scratched his ears and returned to his usual lazy look, but his eyes darkened unconsciously. It seemed like a few seconds passed, or a few minutes passed. Several people disappeared in an instant, leaving only a lonely piece of fragile foundation. A wave hit in the distance, and Dressrosa completely disappeared from the map. Like Marineford. Bulu Bulu. Porosalino. This is not your business. Clean up the living people on the island now and return to Mariejois. Kizaru said something strangely, and this sentence made the 5 elders on the opposite side become furious. Ha 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 ha. Well done. Go and see if there are any survivors, and be sure to deal with it. Don't let anyone know what's happening here. Kizaru landed quietly on a rock. He could not imagine that a country that was fine half an hour ago would now disappear into the sea. Quote. Listening to the 5 elders' voices, Kizaru silently opened the video of the phone bug. Porosalino. Do you hear me? I know. Moxie. Seeing people around him grabbing at him, Lin Chen closed his eyes tightly and began to radiate his feelings. Chapter 124. Storing Treasures. Absorb again. Advertise here. Mariejois, 5 elders meeting room. Boom. One of the 5 elders banged the table heavily, with uncontrollable anger in his eyes. What did this guy Porosalino mean by what he just said? 5 elders, who was holding the first generation nonsense, lightly knocked on the table with the hilt of his sword and said, "Don't be angry. People with Kizaru's personality can rest assured. Maybe they just express their dissatisfaction and treat him coldly when the time comes. If you let him continue to fish and swim, you don't need to take this kind of unambitious person too seriously." After saying this, he smiled again and said, "Have you seen the image that was just transmitted? Dressrosa's lamp has been extinguished, and there is no sign of anyone at dawn. We will only announce the execution of Rosinant and Momo after a while. With nice news, if we execute the Fishman Island plan at the same time, Daybreak will be defeated." Ha 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 ha. The other 4 were stunned when they heard the Fishman Island's plan, and said with some worry, "Sengoku's place." Don't worry. Don't forget the application he submitted a few days ago. As long as our attitude on this is a little more ambiguous, Sengoku will naturally go all out to fight for it. That's true, but it's better not to agree to Sengoku's increase in the number of admirals. Then use other things to compensate Marine. The balance at sea cannot be broken. Agree. Seconded. The Fishman Island. When Lin Chen returned to the Dragon Palace with a few people, Tiger and Jinbei were shocked. Boss. Lin Chen glanced at the smile with closed eyes and slowly took off the mask on his face. Everyone was shocked by the long bloody scabs on Lin Chen's eyes. Boss, are you okay? Elder brother. Lin Chen shook his head and sighed. It seems that the plan can't keep up with the changes, alas. And Dressrosa. Seeing the self-blame look on Lin Chen's face, Rayleigh and others were stunned. Could it be that Dressrosa? Yes, the sea where we were just now was Dressrosa. After hearing Lin Chen's words, Rayleigh and others' breaths froze, their faces full of disbelief. How can it be? Seeing the unbelievable looks of several people, Lin Chen shook his head. This was indeed unbelievable for them. After all, everything happened in the blink of an eye, and his own time lag also stopped everyone for a lot of time. In their perception, the crisis ended in an instant, and they were taken away by Lin Chen. Although they had previously discovered that there was a vast ocean around them, and there were even some things floating on the sea, it was really hard for them to think that this was Dressrosa. Wiping off the blood scab on his face, Lin Chen's eyes revealed a ruthless look. It was unclear whether this sudden attack was caused by Marine or world government. But no matter who it is, the two sides have become sworn enemies. Now it's time for you to die or for me to live. If you have the opportunity to kill the other party, you must seize it. Just like the other party seized this opportunity this time, if he and Enel hadn't awakened to foresee the future, the result would still be unknown. While several people were still immersed in shock, Enel stammered, "But, I clearly saw it." Rayleigh glanced at Enel and said, "That's the foreseeing of the future in the esoteric sex. You have already touched the threshold of the top sensual sex. I didn't expect it to be so fast." Enel. But, Lin Chen glanced at Enel, who wanted to continue talking, and said, "Tell me what you saw, tell me in detail." Enel swallowed, with a hint of fear in his eyes, and said, "I saw that the bodies of Brother Shaw and I were nowhere to be found. Uncle Rayleigh and Mr. Yishao. Finally, there was a big hole in your chest, brother. I barely supported my body and stood in place." After speaking, Enel glanced at Luo and Sugar, but did not tell them the outcome. Everyone present also knew that the outcome for the two children would only be worse. After listening to Enel's narration, Lin Chen understood clearly. "Brother, according to Uncle Rayleigh, I have clearly foreseen the future. Why is the future still being changed?" Lin Chen chuckled and said, "Enel, do you think the future will not be changed? A truly strong person never believes in the future. Only if you are stronger now, then what you do is the future." Quote. After listening to Lin Chen's inspiring words, Enel's body was shaken, as if he was enlightened, and his eyes slowly changed from fear to clarity and finally to fire. "I understand. I will definitely become a strong man like my eldest brother." Rayleigh and Crocodile who were around looked at Lin Chen with some disdain. This guy was still so good at deceiving people. They both knew that Lin Chen probably used some moves to change the future. But what the two of them were also curious about was how Lin Chen, who had been seriously injured in the future Enel met, changed the situation of the battle. Lin Chen glanced at the two of them and said with an evil smile, "I want to know." The two nodded subconsciously. Seeing their appearance, Lin Chen smiled crookedly and said, "You will naturally understand this kind of thing when you reach my level. You understand everything." Rayleigh and Crocodile's faces darkened, and they couldn't help but gave Lin Chen a few violent shudders, which made the others chuckle, and the tense atmosphere among everyone also eased a lot. Seeing that everyone was no longer nervous, Lin Chen felt relieved and said seriously, "It's a coincidence. If I act according to my original idea, the result may be the same as the future foreseen by Enel. But, I also awakened to see the future. And the future I met was almost the same as Enel, so I temporarily changed my moves and made the right choice, and I was able to save my life." After finishing speaking, Lin Chen looked at Enel earnestly and said, "Foreseeing the future is more about letting you seize the opportunity to change the future. The future you see is not certain. That is your future self warning you." Everyone fell into deep thought after hearing Lin Chen's words, but Lin Chen didn't give them any more time to think, and his tone became serious. "Okay, let's go back and take it easy now. I give you less than half a day. Come out of the mood just now. No matter what, our task is still very important. We must cheer up." After saying that, Lin Chen looked at Tiger and said, "Take me to the treasury of the Fishman Island." Several people watched Tiger and Lin Chen leave and stood there silently. Thinking about what happened on Dressrosa, they couldn't help but shudder. At the same time, a question also lingered in their minds. Is there really something in this world that can wipe out an entire country with one blow? Pushing open the heavy door, Lin Chen looked at the mountains of treasures in front of him and his heart aroused a wave of excitement. The last time he saw so many was when he was trying to grab the gold in the sky. "Tiger, let's go, don't let anyone in." "Yes." When the door behind him slowly closed, Lin Chen took a deep breath, looked at the treasure in front of him, and thought silently in his heart. Absorb. Chapter 125 Redeem 9 Tails. Increased combat power. Advertise here. Host. Lin Chen 22. Skills. Special Ninjutsu. Impure World Reincarnation LV10, Sage Mode LV8, Wood Style Secret Technique LV8, Original Realm Peeling Technique LV7. S-Level Ninjutsu. Flying Thunder God Technique LV8 Reikiri LV7 Lightning Style Kirin LV7 Fire Style Haohuo Mieya LV5 Fire Style Dragon Flame Singing Technique LV5 A-Level Ninjutsu Chidori LV10 Rasengan LV10 Illusion Darkness Technique LV10 Chidori Sharp Spear LV9 8 Inner Gates LV8 Water Style Great Waterfall Technique LV7 Water Release Shark Bullet Technique LV7 B-Level Ninjutsu Fire Extinguishing LV10 Shadow Clone Technique LV9 C-Level Ninjutsu Great Fireball Technique LV10 Phoenix Fire Technique LV10 E-Level Ninjutsu 3 Body Technique LV10 Others Marine 6 Styles LV8 Abilities Taijutsu LV8 Swordsmanship LV8 Illusion LV8 Armament Haki LV8 Observation Haki LV9 Conqueror's Haki LV6 Eternity Mangekyo Senju Bloodline Dust Release Rinnegan Uzumaki Constitution Combat Strength Emperor King Level Points 410,000 Redeem 9 Tails. Ding. 9 Tails is a high concentration chakra. Please exchange it for chakra or for conscious 9 Tails. Lin Chen thought for a while and asked, what is the difference between the two? Exchanging chakra can help you inject Geto statue more easily and achieve Sage of 6 Paths. Exchanging conscious 9 Tails can increase interaction, and the upper limit of fusion with 9 Tails is higher. It can even reach the perfect level of Jinchuriki. Without hesitation, Lin Chen exchanged the conscious 9 Tails. Not only did he have the eternal Mangekyo, he even had a Rinnegan. Was he still afraid of a 9 Tails? What's more, 9 Tails can also be summoned as a combat force when the time comes, and its powerful destructive power cannot be underestimated. The exchange is successful. A seal is being added for you. No need for sealing. Receive. Seeing the chain that had just extended out on his abdomen disappear again, Lin Chen also saw a red figure appear in his heart. On the empty railing, the seal in the middle is slowly disappearing, a red figure in the shadow is breathing slowly, and a pair of scarlet eyes in the darkness are full of vigilance and killing intent. Lin Chen looked down and saw that he was standing on the water, with ripples emanating from the darkness in front of him. 9 trumpets. Hearing someone calling out his name, Zhu Xiaoxiao was obviously a little surprised. He slowly approached the railing, trying to see who the man outside the door was. Not many people knew his real name, not to mention that this kid still had a vaguely disgusting aura about him. Uchiha Madara, Uchiha Obito, Uchiha Sasuke, or who? And these people are already memories from ancient times, how could they still be alive now? Lin Chen watched the huge fox head in front of him getting closer to him. He looked down at the waving water on the ground, frowned slightly, and stepped lightly with his foot. The water disappeared immediately, and the whole heart seemed empty and bright. The sudden change made Zhu Xiaoxiao's eyes shrink, and he became even more nervous when he saw Lin Chen's appearance clearly. This was a person he had never seen before. Hey, boy, who are you? Lin Chen's eyes turned into an eternal Mangekyo, and then turned into a Rinnegan look, which really scared Zhu Xiaoxiao. Uchiha's brat. No. The old man's eyes. How is that possible? The era of ninjas has clearly passed. Lin Chen was stunned for a moment when he heard Zhu Xiaoxiao's words. He thought for a moment and tilted his head and said, the era of ninjas has passed. Is this the era of tattoos now? Quote. Zhu Xiaodao obviously didn't expect Lin Chen to ask this question, but after thinking about it carefully, what this guy said seemed to make some sense. Seeing the dumb look of the fox in front of him, Lin Chen was still prepared to use gentle methods to persuade him. Zhu Xiaoxiao, you don't need to think so much now. These eyes can already prove everything. I don't need to say more. Unlocking the seal has already demonstrated my sincerity. Okay. We don't have so much time now. My name is Lin Chen. Of course. You can also call me Madara. You just need to give me strength when I need you. I don't want me to personally persuade you then. The expression that likes to threaten the fox with Mangekyo is exactly the same. Then it will be clear where Doflamingo took Monet and Rosinante away, world government. This is completely consistent with my previous guess. Unnecessary. Looking at these eyes, the fear of being dominated by Mangekyo in Zhu Xiaoxiao's mind was awakened again, and he couldn't help but shed a few drops of cold sweat. Exchange for Uchiha Fan. Grass Pheasant Sword. After exchanging 9 tails, your chakra becomes very abundant and you can even enter Jinchuriki mode. Looking at the two weapons that appeared in his hands, Lin Chen showed a trace of satisfaction on his face. Although both weapons cost 50,000 points, Lin Chen felt that it was quite worth it. After all, he had never had a weapon that was handy until now. He used ninjutsu in every battle. Once he encountered a wheel battle, chakra would some successors are powerless. Marine himself has been a weapon for so many years. If there was such a weapon when he was in East Blue, Garp and Guion would definitely have informed him. Then the result would be obvious. This kind of attack could only be the means of the world government. Redeem completed. 100,000 points left. Do you still need to continue to redeem? After saying that, Lin Chen's Mangekyo slowly turned, and the threatening meaning in his eyes was as close as Zhu Xiao. Of course, the main reason is that Zhu Shaokong knows that he can't beat the guy in front of him. As an old fox who has lived for a long time, he has seen how strong the person is. Lin Chen in front of him is the same as Madara and others back then. These two weapons can also perfectly bring out one's melee capabilities, so that one's combat power will not be limited to ninjutsu, and the overall combat power will be improved. Although I don't know what is happening now, it is a good thing to be able to see a ninja from the old era, and this guy has the eyes of an old man, so he can barely cooperate. Lin Chen glanced at Zhu Xiaoxiao one last time, withdrew from his mind, and continued to redeem. Although he was protesting in his heart, Zhu Xiaohong still lay on the ground and fell asleep, as if he was at your mercy. And he also left 100,000 points as an emergency. After the attack on Dressrosa, Lin Chen was able to identify the murderer behind the scenes. Chapter 126 Execution. The eye-catching hooves of the Tianxiang dragon. Advertise here. Host. Lin Chen 22. Skills. Special Ninjutsu. Impure World Reincarnation LV10, Sage Mode LV8, Wood Style Secret Technique LV8, Original Realm Peeling Technique LV7. S-Level Ninjutsu. Flying Thunder God Technique LV8, Reikiri LV7, Lightning Style Kirin LV7, Fire Style Haohuo Mieya LV5, Fire Style Dragon Flame Singing Technique LV5. A-Level Ninjutsu. Chidori LV10, Rasengan LV10, Illusion Darkness Technique LV10, Chidori Sharp Spear LV9, 8 Inner Gates LV8, Water Style Great Waterfall Technique LV7, Water Release Shark Bullet Technique LV7. B-Level Ninjutsu. Fire Extinguishing LV10, Shadow Clone Technique LV9. C-Level Ninjutsu. Great Fireball Technique LV10, Phoenix Fire Technique LV10. E-Level Ninjutsu. 3 Body Technique LV10. Others. Marine 6 Styles LV8. Abilities. Taijutsu LV8, Swordsmanship LV8, Illusion LV8, Armament Haki LV8, Observation Haki LV9, Conqueror's Haki LV6, Eternity Mangekyo Senju Bloodline Dust Release Rinnegan Uzumaki Constitution Ninetales Jinchuriki. Combat Strength. King Level. Points. 110,000. Arriving outside the Dragon Palace, Lin Chen first called Tiger over and asked, "Did the Revolutionary Army send you any news?" "Tiger Kaido. Mr. Long has come in person." Lin Chen nodded slightly and said, "Call the others to the Dragon Palace, including Mr. Yishao." Good. Looking at Tiger's leaving figure, Lin Chen walked towards the Dragon Palace, and the sound of the 9 loudspeakers was already making a lot of noise in Lin Chen's mind. What? Why is it at the bottom of the sea? What was that thing just now? Why is it a fish? He is a fish. Is he the same species as that guy Hoshigaki Kisame? Why don't they have the aura of chakra on them? Where is this? And you must be careful, I can't spare you if you drown in the sea. Lin Chen scratched his ears, his mind moved slightly, and a chain appeared out of thin air and tied it to Zhu Xiaoxiao's mouth. Well, it's so noisy. Shut up, you country bumpkin fox. You look like a country fox. Just stay with me and don't disturb me. Before Lin Chen could say anything else, Enel's figure appeared in the Dragon Palace. Huh, Brother Lin, were you talking to me just now? I admit that I am a bit rustic, but I am not a country bumpkin. I have followed you all over the world for so many years, and I have seen a lot. Lin Chen showed a few black lines on his forehead and waved his hand towards Enel. Okay, I'm not going to talk to you anymore, sit down quickly, there will be a meeting later. Enel scratched his head and sat aside with some doubts. He still didn't quite believe what Lin Chen said. He was the only one in the Dragon Palace just now. Could it be that if Brother Lin didn't say it to him, he would say it to others? After a while, everyone sat down one by one. Lin Chen looked at them one by one. They were all core members of his team. Of course, the current Yishao was not. Rayleigh, Crocodile, Enel, Tiger, Jinbei, a smile, and a somewhat unfamiliar face. 9 of the 10 fingers are gold rings. He looks like a nouveau riche, but his expression is very well behaved and does not let him down. The feeling of disgust. Who is this guy? Hearing Lin Chen's question, Tezzolo looked in disbelief. He thought he could see Brother Madara's true face because he thought he had accepted him in the morning, but now Brother Madara didn't seem to recognize him. Crocodile coughed slightly and said, "Money tree." Hearing these 3 words, Lin Chen suddenly realized and said with a warm smile, "So it's Tezzolo. Welcome to join us." Crocodile patted Tezzolo on the shoulder and said to Lin Chen, "This guy is now the second in command in our underground world. He takes care of many things very well. I have the intention to bring him to our team." Enel on the other side also stood up and said, "Yes, brother, when Brother Shaw was in a coma a few days ago, I was able to mobilize the manpower in the underground world so easily thanks to Tezzolo's help." Lin Chen thought for a moment and said, "Now is not the time. Tezzolo cannot be exposed to the public eye." Crocodile and Enel's expressions froze, and then they looked at Tezzolo with some regret, and Tezzolo was also a little frustrated. But Lin Chen continued, "Let Tezzolo be the leader of the underground world. Lao Sha, just put your name on it and leave everything to him. You have to focus on improving your strength now. Enel, now my strength is not weaker than yours. Crocodile was stunned for a moment, then looked at Enel in surprise, a bit incredulous. I know, I will focus on improving my strength. Lin Chen nodded, and finally looked at Tezzolo and said, you play a greater role, don't worry, you are indispensable for this team to be what it is today. Looking at Tezzolo's empty ring finger, which was in sharp contrast with the rings on other fingers, Lin Chen continued, I will do what I promised you. Lin Chen then told everyone about the theory of the murderer behind the attack, and since then it has been basically confirmed that the murderer who destroyed Dressrosa was the world government. Boy, I'm late. There was a sound outside the door, and as a breeze passed by, a dragon wearing a navy blue cloak appeared in the dragon palace. No, you came just in time. Seeing Lin Chen looking at him with stern eyes, Long's expression was extremely gloomy and he said, I have brought you bad news. As he said that, Long took out a phone bug from his hand and started to play it slowly. The core members of Daybreak, Monet and Rocinante, have been captured by us. And Daybreak has also suffered a fatal blow. This time, these two criminals will be chopped to death. These are extremely evil people who have touched the bottom line of the world government. It is the source of chaos and war. After these two people are executed, the world will usher in peace again. And those criminals who live in the darkness. Watch. This will be your result. Lin Chen sat on the high seat and watched. The veins on the back of his hands were exposed, the handguard of the seat was crushed to pieces, the Sharingan in his eyes turned unconsciously, and a ferocious aura erupted from his whole person. On the screen, Monet and Rocinante are being dropped in the air, their clothes are in tatters, their bodies are covered with traces of torture, and their four joints have become twisted. On their foreheads, a striking hooves of the heavenly soaring dragon draw special attention. Lin Chen was very angry in his heart, but his head was very clear. He looked at Long and asked, when did this news come out? Long said, the Sabayati archipelago just sent it. When is the execution date? Tomorrow. Hearing these words, Lin Chen suddenly laughed. The others looked at him without knowing why. Lin Chen said, tomorrow. It seems that the world government is also very anxious. No trace of us was found in Dressrosa. We are still alive. They are afraid of long nights and dreams, so they can only hurry up and execute them. If they really succeed tomorrow, even if no one believes that we are dead by then, we are already dead, and the shackles broken at dawn will be broken again. World government put on. The rest of the people looked at Lin Chen and asked, then what should we do? Lin Chen's eyes were fixed on the screen on the hooves of the heavenly soaring dragon on the foreheads of Monet and Rocinante, as well as their twisted black and purple joints, and he said with a ferocious smile, surprise attack on Mariejois. Happy New Year, readers. Chapter 127 Kill the Celestial Dragons again. The illusion of exchange for hostages. Advertise here. Surprise attack on Mariejois. Everyone looked at Lin Chen in disbelief, with shock in their eyes. A surprise attack on Mariejois was unheard of. Although Lin Chen had a criminal record, it was only done secretly, and the results were predictable. This time we attacked Mariejois and wanted to save people under the eyes of the world government. It was obviously difficult to do it secretly. Not to mention how many eyes in the world will be staring at this place, the strength of the guards alone is ridiculously high. The five elders, Kong, the Holy Knights, and many powerful people from the naval headquarters, Lin Chen would not believe this kind of thing. Marine would not participate. This is far more powerful than the enemies faced in East Blue, not to mention the weapons hidden behind the world government that can destroy the world. Lin Chen, calm down. This kind of thing is too difficult for us now. Long and Rayleigh are among the few sober people. They have seen all kinds of storms and waves over the years, and they are naturally experienced. If a decision like what Lin Chen said fails, all previous efforts will be wasted, and even if it succeeds, it will be very painful for Dawn. Those who lack strength will definitely perish in Mariejois. Even a strong person like Rayleigh cannot guarantee that he will escape unscathed. But Enel didn't think so much, his face turned red from holding back, and said hurriedly, Brother Lin Chen. I'll go with you. I have Thunder Fruit, and as long as I'm fast enough, I can save them. Rayleigh scolded Enel, frowned and said, children, don't interrupt your conversation, adults. You know your stuff. If it's just about saving people, isn't Lin Chen's elusive move faster than yours? After hearing what Rayleigh said, Enel was stunned and suddenly felt frustrated. Well, Enel is also eager to save people. Lin Chen comforted Enel slightly, and said in a solemn tone, this matter is not trivial. We must save people, but we must also be wary of Marine's actions. Don't forget that Kizaru showed up at Dressrosa. We are facing all the pressure from both sides. Not good. Suddenly, a panicked voice came from outside the door, and everyone frowned. Could it be that something bad happened again? Oh my god. The Celestial Dragon's ship is coming. Hearing the word Celestial Dragons, several people were shocked and looked at Lin Chen. Called in. Lin Chen was also a little confused about this. Looking at the people around him, Lin Chen stood up and led everyone to the place where the Celestial Dragons were. You bastards. Help me now, otherwise I will kill you all. I saw a Celestial Dragons with his head covered in blood, pointing a pistol at the surrounding Murlocs, threatening them to help him. Seeing this scene, Lin Chen did not show up immediately, and led everyone to hide in the dark, while his mind was spinning rapidly. It doesn't look like the world government has called in. Is it a coincidence? While Lin Chen was still thinking, the fishmen in the distance were already furious and picked up sticks in their hands. Damn celestial dragons. How dare you threaten us now? Let's kill him together. Avenge our compatriots. Just as they were about to take action, an unexpected person appeared. Stop. Otahime scolded the murlocs around her, and at the same time came to the celestial dragons to check on her injuries. Seeing that the celestial dragons were fine, Otahime turned around and looked at the group of fishmen who were glaring at her and said, "Stop hating me. This is an opportunity to ease the relationship. Everyone, let go of the hatred in your heart. Humans and fishmen will definitely be able to coexist." Damn it. My wife and daughter were taken away. Do you know? They were taken to the Holy Land by these celestial dragons. I still don't know whether they are dead or alive. Do you know how painful it is for me to live? Don't think you are still a princess now. The Fishmen Island is no longer yours. We don't need to listen to you anymore. Kill the celestial dragons. Revenge. Revenge. Listening to the angry voices of this group of people, Otahime's observation Haki could also feel the overwhelming hatred and screams in their hearts, and she couldn't help but feel sad. Killing cannot solve the problem. Only sincerity can bring you sincerity. Otahime was still pleading with everyone, but everyone ignored her and continued to press her step by step. Lin Chen, who was hiding in the dark, couldn't help but sneer when he saw this. What a farce. But soon he seemed to have thought of something, a smile appeared on his face, and he whispered something to Tiger and Jinbei. Bring Shirahoshi here and stop the group of people who want to kill the celestial dragons. Soon, the group of people who wanted to kill the celestial dragons were stopped by Jinbei, and they all looked at Jinbei incomprehensibly. Boss, why are you stopping us? Isn't the Fishmen Island already in opposition to the world government? Why can't we kill the celestial dragons? Are we still afraid of them? Jinbei scratched his head. He didn't understand Lin Chen's actions and could only do his task silently. Seeing everyone being stopped by Jinbei, Otahime breathed a sigh of relief, squatted down and looked at the celestial dragons behind her, and said as softly as she could, "Don't worry, I will send you back." But the celestial dragons looked at Otahime fiercely and said, "When I, Saint Masquerade, return to the Holy Land, I will definitely capture you all. It's all your fault. Send me back now, quick. Also, who allowed you to look down on me?" As he spoke, Saint Masquerade took out a pistol from his arms and pointed it at Otahime, but Otahime did not react for a moment. Boom. With the sound of a gunshot, Otahime fell to the ground in pain, clutching her shoulders. Mother. Shirahoshi, who was being brought over by Tiger, happened to see this scene, and quickly came to Otahime with red eyes, and tears fell on Otahime drop by drop. Mother. Shirahoshi sobbed while covering the wound on Otahime's shoulder, and soon her little hand became bloody. The scarlet color kept irritating Shirahoshi, and Otahime's breath getting weaker and weaker as she fell to the ground also made Shirahoshi anxious. Ha 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 ha, I didn't expect there to be such a beautiful fish man here. I want to take you back. You will definitely be my most beautiful toy by then. At some point, Saint Masquerade stood up and looked at Shirahoshi up and down, his eyes filled with joy. When he thought that such a beautiful fishman was about to become his slave, Saint Masquerade couldn't bear the excitement in his heart. He walked towards Shirahoshi step by step, firmly grabbed Shirahoshi's hair, and kept pulling it back. Ah, Mom. It hurts so much. Help me. Being a little irritated by Shirahoshi's noise, Masquerade Saint hit Shirahoshi's head hard with the butt of his rifle, and a bright red bloodline immediately flowed down. Shut up. It's so noisy. As soon as he finished speaking, Saint Masquerade felt a little regretful. He quickly looked at Shirahoshi's face and breathed a sigh of relief after confirming that it was not damaged by him. The surrounding murlocs all stared angrily at Saint Masquerade, as if they wanted to eat him. Let me go, Shirahoshi. I'm going to kill you. Boss Jinbei. Why don't you stop it? Jinbei didn't speak, his eyes kept moving between Masquerade Saint and Otahime, as if he understood Lin Chen's intention. Otahime was lying on the ground, looking at Shirahoshi who kept calling her, and her eyes slowly became moist, but the injuries on her body no longer allowed her to get up and protect Shirahoshi. At this time, she could only lie weakly on the ground, making weak sounds from her mouth. Help, Shirahoshi. As her fingers grasped, the scene in front of Otahime became increasingly blurry. 2 streams of heat flowed through her cheeks. Listening to Shirahoshi's heart-rending voice in the distance, her heart felt stabbing pains, as gentle as a knife. Cut. Can sincerity be exchanged for sincerity? Lin Chen appeared next to Otahime, looking down at this miserable and stupid person, he shook his head. Does it hurt? Does it hurt? This is just the most common feeling of the fishmen under your command. Do you want to go to the Holy Land to enjoy something more powerful? Otahime turned her head and looked in the direction of Shirahoshi. Listening to this familiar and annoying voice, she still stretched out her hand to grab Lin Chen's trouser leg. Save. Save. Shirahoshi. Please. Lin Chen didn't take any action and asked instead, do you want to save me? Think. Kill him to save him. Do you want to kill him? Quote. Mom, save me. It hurts so much. Shirahoshi's voice in the distance reached Odahime's ears again, and some changes occurred in her heart. Want to kill? Kill. Lin Chen smiled softly, twisted his neck and walked towards Saint Muscarad. And Saint Muscarad also saw the man in front of him. At first, he was standing next to Odahime. He didn't take it seriously. Anyway, no matter who he was, he could only surrender to the majesty of the celestial dragons, unless it was that man. The legendary devil. But this time I just went out to sea to bring back the rescued fishman slave. How could I be so unlucky that I happened to meet him? But, you. White mask, red cloud and black robe, the familiar appearance of the man in front of him made Saint Muscarad tremble in his heart. However, the big fan on Lin Chen's back and the long sword on his waist still made him a little lucky. That guy didn't use weapons very much, so what if he wasn't? Thinking of this, Saint Muscarad swallowed his saliva, and his hands unconsciously loosened Shirahoshi's hair, but Lin Chen was still walking towards him step by step, like a beast that wanted to devour others. Lin Chen walked up to Shirahoshi, with a slight flash of red in his eyes. The injury on Shirahoshi's head recovered as before, while Saint Muscarad was so frightened that he sat on the ground. It hurts. Don't come over. Saint Muscarad raised his gun with trembling hands, and his forehead was covered with sweat. Boom. Under tremendous pressure, Muscarad Sheng still pulled the trigger of the pistol, and a bullet flew towards Lin Chen at high speed. Lin Chen pulled out the Kusanagi sword from his waist and swung it lightly, and the bullet was split into two. Then Lin Chen slashed again, and Muscarad Saint's pistol was also cut in half. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. At this moment, Saint Muscarad quickly lowered his head and kowtowed, praying that Lin Chen could let him go. He would never dare to do this to others, but Lin Chen was a demon that everyone in Mariejois feared. At this moment, his father's instructions before leaving seemed to be echoing in his ears. It's better to go out less. We just lost a few fishmen slaves. It's very chaotic outside now. But it was too late for him to regret it at this time. Looking at Lin Chen's emotionless eyes, Muscarad's tears flowed down his face in fear, and his whole body was trembling as he waited for his fate. And Lin Chen did not disappoint him, and wiped his neck with a knife. Blood spattered, Lin Chen dodged a few times, and Saint Muscarad fell to the ground, and the light quickly disappeared from his eyes. Seeing this, the surrounding fishmen burst into cheers and danced excitedly. Odahime, who fell to the ground, slowly breathed a sigh of relief when she saw that Shirahoshi was safe, but soon her eyelids began to fight, and the long-term blood loss caused her life to pass quickly. Mother. Shirahoshi looked at Odahime and was a little overwhelmed. He looked at Lin Chen beside him and ran over quickly, staring straight at him with a pair of big eyes. Uncle. Save my mother. Seeing Shirahoshi's innocent look, Lin Chen sighed in his heart and came to Odahime, but he would not give Odahime a good look. HMPH. If you don't hold your destiny in your own hands, it will be difficult for you to do anything in your life. As he spoke, Lin Chen restored Odahime to her senses, but Odahime was now too embarrassed to face Lin Chen and could only pull Shirahoshi and leave quickly. Hearing Long's words, Lin Chen nodded. Hearing Saint Muscarad's answer, Long nodded and said to Lin Chen, there are some celestial dragons who often like to run outside to do evil. Many of them have been discovered by us. Long shook his head, sighed and said, it used to be certain, but now, it depends on the discussion between the Don Quixote family and the 5 elders. The Don Quixote family. Ignoring Saint Muscarad, Lin Chen turned to Long on the side and said, will the world government agree to change the hostages? Lin Chen looked at Long with some doubts, and Long looked at Muscarad Saint and said, are you from the Don Quixote family of celestial dragons? Although Saint Muscarad was not dead, when he saw the people around him clearly, his face suddenly turned uglier than if he were dead. Soon, the body of Saint Muscarad in the Dragon Palace recovered, and Saint Muscarad opened his eyes after a while. Saint Muscarad was frightened but also a little surprised. You. How do you know? Lin Chen glanced at Long and said, I know what you are thinking, don't worry, let's take him back first. After saying that, Lin Chen glanced around and saw that everyone was ready, and said, let's go to Sabayati Archipelago. Everyone is ready, I will formulate the battle plan. As soon as the two left, Long came to Lin Chen and said anxiously, why did you kill Muscarad Saint? I'm not dead. I see. If the Don Quixote family is tough, they might be able to exchange the hostages, but I'm afraid the 5 elders will be tougher. He has entered Don's lair. If he can return to Mariejois alive, he can brag about it for the rest of his life. After saying that, several people brought the body of Saint Muscarad back to the Dragon Palace. Listening to the distant words of the Murlocs who wanted to keep the body of Saint Muscarad and burn it, Lin Chen sighed in his heart and left. A few minutes faster. Time is reversed. Chapter 128 Countdown to Execution. Sengoku's Ambition. After a while, everyone arrived at the Sabayati Archipelago. Different from the lively atmosphere in the past, everyone in Sabayati Archipelago showed a look of self-confidence at this time, and they were discussing the blockbuster information released by the world government this time. Lin Chen and others secretly came to the place where world government was broadcasting the live broadcast. The countdown had already started on the screen, with less than 8 hours left. Crocodile lit a cigar, took a deep breath, and said, we have to go early. Lin Chen nodded and said, of course, you can't place your hopes on others. While Lin Chen was still thinking about who to bring with him, groups of marine soldiers in the distance attracted his attention. Quick, quick, quick. Block all ship plating factories. No one is allowed to come near. No more pirates can be allowed to enter the new world at this critical moment. Especially that group of pirates. Lin Chen, the leading marine general, had some impression that it was the naval headquarters Rear Admiral Dalmatian that had been stationed in Sabayati archipelago. What caught Lin Chen's attention was the group of pirates mentioned in Dalmatian. What kind of pirates could make marine so mobilized? It must be a redhead. Long quickly guessed the identity of the group of pirates, thought for a moment and then said, after we parted ways, the guy said he was going to Hokage's place, and then he wanted to take Yuta to some concert. Now the days are almost gone. If nothing unexpected happens, it's time to come to New World. Lin Chen nodded, then ignored Marine and shifted his focus to making a plan. The few of them discussed it for an hour on the second floor of Shaki's tavern before it was completed. Only Enel finally decided to follow Lin Chen to Mariejois, while the others temporarily stayed in Sabayati archipelago, waiting for Lin Chen's signal. Rayleigh and others were somewhat opposed to this at first, but long supported Lin Chen. After all, this time it was just to save people, so it was obviously most appropriate for Lin Chen, the fastest, to go with Enel. The Dragon, Rayleigh, and Crocodile are watching the live broadcast of world government in the Sabayati archipelago. Once they find that the situation has changed, Crocodile can control the sand and take the two of them to fly to Mariejois immediately. Tiger, Jinbei, and Tezola will temporarily guard the Fishman Island. After an accident, they can immediately call for help from the three people at Sabayati archipelago. Finally, Lin Chen turned his attention to the silent smile and said, if you want to know the answer to Dressrosa, come with me to Mariejois. You don't need to come to help us, and I won't implicate you until Mariejois lets separate, there's the answer you want to know. Yi Xiao clenched his fists, and everyone was waiting for his reaction. Finally, as if he had made a decision, Yi Xiao breathed a long sigh of relief and said, I know, I will go with you. I hope it's really there I can find the answer to what you said. After the plan was completed, no one hesitated. Lin Chen and the others immediately went to the red line, preparing to go up again along the original path. They did not forget to take the celestial dragons with them. The three dragons continued to stay here, waiting for the opportunity and adapting to changes, while the three tigers returned to the Fishman Island to strengthen defenses and guard against all possible dangers. There are still 6 hours left before the execution time of the world government. Marineford, the highest level meeting. Attendant, Sengoku, San Admiral, Garp, Crane, Zephyr. Sengoku was sitting in the center, his glasses flashing with white light. It was already dark outside, but the lights in the conference room were bright, and everyone was very nervous. This was a very scary meeting. The Fishman Island must be eliminated. Sengoku nodded at the table, turned to look at Kizaru aside, and said, show Dressrosa's photo. Kizaru nodded, and then the photos of Dressrosa before and after the destruction appeared on the big screen. This comparison made everyone gasp. Aokiji also shed a few drops of cold sweat on his forehead, and said nervously, what on earth happened? The others were still immersed in the shock caused by the photo. Akainu put out his cigar and asked himself, if it were him, could he do this? The answer is no. This kind of destruction of an entire country and island in an instant has a huge impact on everyone. At the same time, they are also a little confused as to who did this. You must know that Dressrosa is a member of the world government. Then Sengoku and Kizaru looked at each other and nodded. Kizaru immediately understood and took out the documents he had prepared and sent them one by one. Destroy it after reading it, don't save it. Garp picked his nose and didn't care, but when he saw the contents of the document clearly, he was speechless. Daybreak in Dressrosa to steal heavenly gold. At the same time, it threatens the country of Dressrosa, a country that has joined the world government, to belong to its power. After being rejected by the king of Dressrosa, he became angry and destroyed the country. Garp curled his lips and looked a little dazed, it's impossible, that guy. The others were attracted by Garp's words, and Zephyr punched the table. Breaking dawn. These bastards. Damn it. When everyone came to their senses, Sengoku also asked them all to destroy the document and said, do you know why the Fishman Island was destroyed? Those are a group of lunatics. Lunatics even crazier than the Revolutionary Army. Akainu picked up another cigar, his palm turned slightly red, and the cigar was lit like this. Then he took a deep puff and said, then what should we do? The world government is not going to execute Rocinante and Monet tomorrow. Are you a guy? How could Dawn be indifferent? Kizaru stood up and said, don't worry about Dawn, we just need to do our job well. We have been planning to attack the Fishman Island since Eni's lobby was destroyed. Akainu glanced at Kizaru. Yeah, Sengoku glanced at the two of them, and then said, we Marine can't completely ignore this matter. Akainu, you go to Mariejois and assist the world government. Then he looked at Aokiji and said, Aokiji, join this Fishman Island project. It's better for you to fight underwater. Hearing Sengoku arrange for the two of them, Zephyr stood up and said angrily, although world government makes me sick, this move of Dawn is even more annoying. Those guys will go to Mariejois. Don't let me down. Several people also heard what Zephyr meant, and they estimated that he was going to Mariejois with Akainu to wait for dawn. Kizaru touched his chin and asked Sengoku, then what's going on in the Sabayati archipelago with the publicity to blockade the ship plating factory to prevent the red hair from entering the new world? I remember that the red hair and the others seemed to have gone to Elegia. This is different from the new world. The world is still far away. Sengoku didn't speak, and he came out and said, that's to confuse everyone. Sabayati archipelago must have an eyeliner at dawn. Controlling the plating shipyard seems to be to stop the red hair. In fact, the Marines are already prepared. They can do it tonight. All the ships are plated and we can go to the Fishman Island tomorrow. But, he then thought about it, shook his head and smiled bitterly, this is just a temporary trick. They will react quickly and take advantage of this time to control the Fishman Island. After everyone had made arrangements, Sengoku looked at Garp, who had been looking very depressed, and said, Garp. What's wrong with you? Garp waved his hand, sighed and said, Sengoku, I don't plan to participate in this battle, Zephyr came to Garp and patted him on the shoulder, saying, I don't know what's wrong with you, but Dressrosa can't let this happen again. Garp, I need you. Garp looked up at Zephyr, a look of conflict flashed across his face, and finally closed his eyes and asked Sengoku, will those guys at daybreak go rescue Rosinante and Monet? Sengoku shook his head, who knows, they are a group of lunatics, they can destroy Annie's lobby for Tom, what about Rosinante and Monet? Hearing Sengoku's words, Garp's eyes hardened, I know. I'll go to Mariejois. Hearing this, both Sengoku and Zephyr laughed, and the manpower allocation for this plan was basically completed. Akainu, Garp, and Zephyr went to Mariejois, and Sengoku personally led the team and went to the Fishman Island with Aokiji Kizaru. After everything was planned, Sengoku left Kizaru behind again, and the two of them looked extremely lonely in the empty conference room. Was Dressrosa really destroyed at dawn? Sengoku's question reached Kizaru's ears. Kizaru stretched lazily and said, the world government said this is the case. I'm just a messenger. Marshal Sengoku, please don't embarrass me. Hateful. Hearing Kizaru's answer, Sengoku punched the length of the table, as if he had guessed something. He took a deep breath for a long time to calm down. He stared at Kizaru with a pair of sharp eyes and asked, I heard that you took one document about Lin Chen. Kizaru showed a nonchalant expression and said, yes. What you up to? Kizaru scratched his head, thought carefully and said, don't he still have a sister? I'm going to see if she is doing well. Sengoku narrowed his eyes and said, don't get too close to them. World government is looking at us Marine now. Oh, is it because of the plan submitted by Marshal Sengoku? That's right, I'm not very optimistic about that plan. After all, the world government always pursues balance. Sengoku smiled quietly and said, then just let this balance be broken. The air was a little stagnant for a moment. Kizaru put his hands in his pockets and said casually, this has nothing to do with me, but Marshal Sengoku is not afraid of being discovered by the world government when he does this. Ha 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 ha. Sengoku suddenly laughed, touched his chest, and said, the future is yours. It's up to you whether you do it or not. I'm just making a start, ha 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 ha. A white light flashed on Kizaru's glasses, and he looked thoughtfully at the place where Sengoku's hand was touching, I see. Then Kizaru returned to his usual fishy demeanor, okay, I have to go on a mission tomorrow, when can I have a good rest? It's really troubling. Sengoku looked at Kizaru's leaving back and smiled, and murmured, Pelusolino, you have been the most active one every time we encounter dawn missions over the years. I hope I'm not wrong. After everyone left, Sengoku took out a phone bug with a live broadcast of world government's video of the execution of Rosinante and Monet. Rosinante. Looking at Rosinante hanging in the cold wind, the miserable look touched Sengoku's heart. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have let you stay in the dawn. After thinking about it, Sengoku turned off the video, stood up and left the conference room. Before leaving, he was still thinking about Kizaru's words in his mind. What made him doubt was that Dressrosa was really destroyed by dawn. There are also the Knights of God behind world government. All kinds of mysteries weigh on Sengoku's heart. After comprehensive consideration, he submitted a plan to increase the number of admiral quotas to his superiors, but it was undoubtedly rejected. Judging from the information revealed by the five elders, they might agree if it can produce unexpected results in the plan to attack the Fishman Island. But even if something can really be done, Sengoku estimates that the world government will not agree, because this time he submitted an additional admiral quota of 3. On the one hand, in order to deal with Daybreak, which has many powerful people, and on the other hand, as Daybreak's activities become more and more frequent and its power becomes stronger and stronger, it is no longer an era when only one admiral can solve the problem. There are no two admirals together. It's hard to get things sorted out. This has resulted in insufficient marine power in various parts of the world. It is urgent to enhance marine power, but the world government will only consider balance. So, if the balance is broken and marine is at a disadvantage, there may be an opportunity to take advantage. Thinking that Akainu, Garp, and Zephyr were going to Mariejois this time, Sengoku finally chose the direction of Garp and Zephyr, taking advantage of the last time to prepare to discuss something. There are still 4 hours left before the execution of Rocinante and Monet. And the sky is gradually breaking. Mariejois, meeting of 5 elders. Saint Jegolucia Satan, are you ready? Saint Jegolucia Satan nodded and said, although this live broadcast is very hasty, after all, our power is all over the world. All the participating countries have already received the news. Those who are eager to see this news for a moment, I didn't dare to make any move anymore. It seems that we have a sure chance of victory this time. Is there no problem in terms of combat power? After all, we don't really believe that Daybreak will be destroyed in Dressrosa. Don't worry, the Knights of God are ready. Akainu, Garp, and Zephyr will arrive soon. This will be a foolproof plan. What we have to do is to kill those 2 people. We can't let them be killed. Get away. Ha 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 ha, that's great. This farce that has been going on for several years should end. Chapter 129 Early Execution. The whole world is paying attention. Advertise here. When the first ray of sunlight shone on Mariejois at an altitude of 20,000 meters, Lin Chen also brought the 2 of them here. The biting cold wind blew Lin Chen's robes, and only the wisps of sunshine brought some warmth. Mr. Yishao, let's say goodbye here. I think with your strength, you can leave anytime you want. We won't involve you anymore. Lin Chen left a word, and then quickly took Enel to the building in the distance. It was a familiar building, and he still remembered everything that had happened here very clearly. Yishao, who stayed in place, rubbed his blind stick with his hand. After unfolding the observation hockey, he also left in the same direction. He heard screams and violence. Even if he couldn't see anything, he wanted to take a look and look for what Lin Chen said. Answer. Mariejois appears as a huge circular town from above. A cross-shaped road runs through the entire town, and the deepest part is where the 5 elders often meet. The place where Monet and Rocinante were executed was in the middle of the cross-shaped road. There were many celestial dragons surrounding them, pointing with ridicule and disgust in their eyes. What disgusting maggots! All members of Daybreak are maggots. They should not exist in this world. Why don't you execute them now? Do you still want to keep the live broadcast for those untouchables to watch? Although the surrounding celestial dragons were talking a lot, no one dared to step forward. There were 5 people wearing armor standing around Monet and Rocinante. Although their faces could not be seen clearly, the marks printed on the armor made the surrounding people confused. Celestial dragons all understand a little bit. Although the 5 elders moved all the celestial dragons out of this place in advance, unfortunately they can't always do everything they say. There are always some people among the celestial dragons who disdain the dawn and can't distinguish the importance of things and insist on gathering together. Here. If a battle breaks out, their fate will naturally be extremely miserable. Lin Chen and Enel, who were 800 miles away, were discussing something at this time. These iron rods are imprinted with my magic technique. Insert them towards Rocinante and Monet later. Give me your maximum current and let me see if your practice over the past few years has yielded any results. Taking out the special iron rod that had been prepared, Lin Chen handed it into Enel's hands, and then said, don't worry about hurting them, I can react. Our first mission is to save people. After thinking about it, Lin Chen continued, if the iron rod is stopped, I will come out immediately to attract their attention. You just rush to Monet and Rocinante. It will be the same with the warlock I left on your clothes. If it doesn't work, then we both have no choice but to rush forward. Enel nodded in understanding. In fact, Lin Chen left warlock marks on everyone's clothes, but the clothes of Rocinante and Monet had long been turned into prison clothes. Lin Chen couldn't sense the original clothes, so there was no way to directly wear them. Walking 2 people can only be rescued in this way. With Enel's super electromagnetic stick, the burst speed at that moment was faster than the 2 of them. If he could successfully break through to Monet and the other 2, Lin Chen could rescue them instantly. Leaving the Flying Thunder God Warlock in place, Lin Chen and Enel began to dive into the depths of Mariejois. Bulu Bulu. The Knights of God who were in the center heard the call bug and quickly answered it. I am the Knights of God, Water. Akainu and the others have arrived. Let's prepare for the execution immediately. My brows have been twitching recently. I feel like something bad has happened. Yes. Shui hung up the phone and looked around. Even observation hockey spread out immediately, but there was nothing suspicious about it. Although this was 2 hours faster than the originally scheduled execution time, he still chose to carry out the orders of the 5 elders resolutely. He had long hated the criminals like Li Xiao, and he could not kill these guys with his own hands. Very happy. Shui started to walk towards the execution platform. Looking at the 2 people hanging in the air, he had already figured out how to kill them. He could just stab them directly on the head. It was not a conventional owl's head, but split into 2 from top to bottom. The cameras that had been prepared all around were focused on the water that started to move. The actions of this mysterious man in armor also made the people responsible for controlling the cameras puzzled. It was clear that there were still 2 hours before the execution. People in various parts of the world have been watching this scene with bated breath. Ever since the world government announced this incident, they can't help but feel a sense of terror and suffocation. World government's comments about easily killing Dawn began to appear one after another. Many people had forgotten the declaration made by Dawn when they killed celestial dragons, and the blood in their hearts had already begun to slowly cool down. Now seeing the world government forcefully killing members of Daybreak, they feel that Daybreak is nothing more than that. No matter how powerful it is, it will never be able to defeat the world government. East Blue, Windmill Village. Perona, Ace, Luffy and others crowded into the village tavern, looking at the only live broadcast device in the village, which was showing the scene of Mariejois at this time, and they all stared at the screen nervously, for fear of missing something. But Lin Chen, who had not appeared for a long time, and the Knights of God, who were approaching Monet and the two of them step by step, made them start to worry. They never doubted whether Lin Chen would go back to save Monet and the others. Now they were only worried about whether Lin Chen could catch up. Allegia, what if it goes according to your personal ideas? Shanks, who was taking Yuta to attend a music event here, frowned and stared at the live broadcast in the city. Yuta nervously hugged Shanks' thigh and looked up at Shanks with red eyes. Shanks said nothing, but his words were full of confidence. Hina was stunned when she heard Smoker's question. She obviously didn't expect Smoker to ask such a question. After thinking about it, she said, a victory for the world government would be better for our Marines. Gion, who was stunned while watching the live broadcast, was called out by the crane outside the door. That guy will definitely go. Beckman stared at the Knights of God in the picture with his gun on his shoulder, and said, hasn't that guy shown up yet? Even if we rush over now, it's too late. Shanks touched Yuta's head and comforted in a low voice. Don't worry, Yuta, Monet will be fine. Quote. New. Gion. It's time to eat. Is Dawn, which has always been strong, going downhill, or is world government suffering a fatal blow, and the relationship between the two parties will become even more tense from now on? Shanks, why is Sister Monet there? What happened? Smoker, who was smoking a cigar in Logue Town, stared blankly at the screen, then shook his head. All the forces in New World are also watching this live broadcast very much, and they are staring at the live broadcast screen in their respective forces. This execution is related to the future direction of the world. Then Smoker looked up at Hina, who was standing aside, hesitated and asked, do you want world government to win or? There are only a few of us at Marine Base now, and our combat power is empty. Let's eat quickly. When you're full, stay at Marine Base. Don't go anywhere. There's chaos outside now. What am I worried about? Those guys are just a group of criminals. Why would I want that guy to show up? First, I'm a Marine, and these guys deserve the fate they have now. Chapter 130. The war begins. Guard your surroundings. I don't believe that no one is out to cause trouble at this time. Although I just detected it, who knows that they have no other means? Shui, who was on the execution platform, reminded his colleagues. At the same time, he instantly drew out the knife he had prepared and slashed at Monet. Boom. At the critical moment, an extremely powerful momentum burst out from the end of the road directly in front of the execution platform, and the Conqueror's Haki on Lin Chen pointed directly at the Knights of God. Super. Electromagnetic gun. Ha. At the same time, under the guidance of Enel, more than a dozen iron rods rushed towards the execution platform from different places in an instant, even the air was shaken away. This explosive speed and power even made the Knights of God, who had been on guard, a little frightened. But his duty is to successfully complete the execution, so naturally he will not retreat even half an inch. The five elders who were far away in the five elders conference room saw a sneer on their lips when they saw the scene. If I had known this would happen, I would have exploded the collars around their necks. As the button in the five elders' hands was pressed, the collars around Monet and Rocinante's necks began to glow red, obviously looking like they were about to explode. It was too late, but soon enough, the iron rod fired by Enel had already arrived next to the execution platform, and Lin Chen's figure disappeared from the place. Whoosh! Lin Chen's toes gently tapped on the iron rod, and the distance between the two of Monet was already very close. Time lag. Invisible fluctuations burst out from Lin Chen's left eye, the surrounding space suddenly stopped, and a burning pain began to burn Lin Chen's eye sockets. 3 steps turned into 2 steps, and Lin Chen flashed to Monet and Rocinante. Then the 3 of them disappeared in an instant and arrived at the place that Lin Chen had already arranged. Lin Chen did not immediately dissipate the time lag. It was not until he destroyed the collars around their necks that they returned to their original state. Ahem. Brother Lin Chen. Elder brother. Both Rocinante and Monet's faces turned pale at this time. Lin Chen patted the two of them gently, indicating that they should stop talking, and then 2 balls of light appeared on their hands and caressed their bodies. Stop talking. I'm late. Don't worry now. I will avenge you. Hearing Lin Chen's words, both Monet and Rocinante's eyes were a little moist. Monet even turned away, not daring to look directly into Lin Chen's eyes. The eye-catching hooves of the Tianxiang dragon on her forehead were something she could never get rid of in her life. Shadow. I will remove your marks. Don't forget that Hancock's mark was removed by me. Now is not the time. Enel is dragging him alone. I have to help him. I will leave a clone to take you away. Wait. Come on. The whole Mariejois will pay the price. After that, Lin Chen left a clone, and then disappeared immediately after sensing Enel's figure. On the way, he separated into another clone, but quietly sneaked into the depths of Mariejois to perform his mission. This moment seemed very long, but the whole process took less than half a minute. Everyone was still immersed in Lin Chen's unheard of speed and mysterious means of rescuing the two. The five elders looked at the scene in the live broadcast in shock. This scene was beyond their imagination. Where are the people? How did that guy appear? How did he disappear? Why didn't the Knights of God respond just now? What are they doing? I'm going to kill them. Such a great opportunity. Why? One of the five elders knocked on the table angrily, his words full of anger. Sakazuki, go and kill them for me. And these two guys, Monet and Rosinante. They must be hidden. Find them out for me. Before he finished speaking, Lin Chen's figure appeared in the picture again, which also attracted the attention of many people. Everyone in the Knights of God had a trace of cold sweat on their foreheads and looked at each other, not understanding what had just happened. Why couldn't you move just now? How did he do it? Our defense is like paper. Although he was immersed in shock, Lin Chen had appeared at the same place again. Enel ducked to Lin Chen's side. How about it? Lin Chen nodded and said, they were all rescued. Enel looked at the shocked Knights of God opposite and asked again, are you leaving? Lin Chen shook his head and said, my clone left first with Monet and Rosinante. We are not in a hurry, we must make them pay the price. Hearing this, Enel laughed loudly, showing a crazy fighting spirit. Just what I wanted. No, you go to Mariejois and destroy everything, leave it to me here. But, stop talking nonsense. Do you really think the two of us can beat them all? They still have hidden methods, be careful. There must be someone coming from Marine, you are no match. With your speed, kill more celestial dragons, that's good. After saying that, Lin Chen grinned again. Don't forget the dream you and I had when we came out at the beginning. Kill the celestial dragons. Overthrow the world government. Now is the time to realize the first dream. You have my spell on you, I will come to you when we retreat. You. Enel gritted his teeth and gave Lin Chen a solemn look, okay, then turned into a stream of light and disappeared. The Knights of God also reacted at this time, and the furious voices of the five elders came from the phone bug. Kill Madara for me. Must kill him here. Don't let him escape. The Knights of God swallowed their saliva after coming back to their senses, and then a ruthless look appeared in the eyes of the five of them, and they quickly formulated a plan. Let's go together. The method Madara used just now is too terrifying. One-on-one will definitely kill him. 5 people will surround him together and kill him. The 5 people looked at each other and immediately rushed towards Lin Chen at the end of the road. Looking at the Knights of God rushing over, Lin Chen didn't panic at all, and faced them step by step, with an astonishing conqueror's haki erupting from his body. He pulled out the Uchiha fan on his back with his left hand, and lightly held the Kusanagi sword at his waist with his right hand. He was once good at using the double sword style, and now he can skillfully use 2 weapons at the same time. Come on, Knights of God. At this moment, everyone in the world is watching. A white mask, a man in black robes, a fan in his left hand, and a long knife in his right hand. One man fights 5 people alone. This scene is deeply imprinted in everyone's mind. Chapter 131 Nine-Tails Tailed Beast Bomb. Reanimation Jutsu. 6 people were fighting in a group on the long street, and there were many celestial dragons who were not afraid of death watching secretly in the distance. Lin Chen used the Uchiha fan in his hand to make a whirring sound, constantly resisting the attacks of the people around him. The Sharingan in his eyes was also constantly turning, slowing down the enemy's movements while also looking for opportunities. The 5 members of the Knights of God were afraid that Lin Chen would use that strange move again, so they all had armament haki attached to their bodies. They looked extremely powerful. The sound of ping ping pong pong could be heard when Lin Chen slashed with his long knife, which showed that they were armed. The depth of practice. After a little probing, Lin Chen threw up his fan to block the attacks of the 2 people on the side. Conqueror's haki was shocked, and 2 types of haki were wrapped around the long knife and slashed across it instantly. A blood mark suddenly appeared on the 3 people opposite. At the same time, Lin Chen's attack slashed to force him back. While the 3 people on the opposite side were suppressed by him, Lin Chen also felt the heavy attack on the fan, and immediately made a counterattack. Uchiha rebound. A burst of white light erupted from the fan, and the other 2 members of the Knights of God were bounced back by the force. They were surprised that Lin Chen's weapon could actually emit such power. Did you eat Devil Fruit's weapon? The 2 of them murmured in a low voice and retreated to the other 3 at the same time. Looking at the wounds on the chests of the 3 colleagues, their faces were a little solemn. Lin Chen looked at the 5 people in front of him with no expression in his eyes. He swung his long knife and struck the 5 people opposite him with another slash. The Knights of God did not dare to be careless. There were celestial dragons behind them. They could only block the blow together, but it did not cause much damage except that it made their arms numb. Lin Chen glanced around the surrounding environment with his peripheral vision, and made up his mind to release Conqueror's haki again, suppressing the 5 people opposite him and immediately forming a seal in his hand. Summoning technique. Damn it, you brat, let me out finally. A huge orange-red nine-tails fox appeared in front of the Knights of God. Its huge body destroyed many surrounding buildings. Many celestial dragons in the distance stared blankly at Nine-Tails, and soon a burst of laughter erupted. Cheers. What a big fox. You must catch it and use it as my toy. Lin Chen stood on the head of Nine-Tails. One person and one fox naturally heard the sound of celestial dragons in the distance. Nine-Tails even revealed a ferocious face and stared at the celestial dragons in the distance. What a disgusting thing that is. I'm going to tear him apart. Of course, destroy this place as much as you like. Kurama. Hearing Lin Chen's voice, Nine-Tails opened its mouth wide, and a purple-black sphere in its mouth continued to expand, aiming at the celestial dragons in the distance. Seeing Nine-Tails make such an action, the Knights of God also understood that if they did not block the blow, the consequences would be disastrous. The 5 of them rushed towards Nine-Tails, trying to interrupt him. Wood style. Wood dragon technique. 5 wooden dragons broke out of the ground and rushed straight towards the 5 Knights of God. Although they did not instantly subdue the opponents, they also slowed them down a lot. Whoosh! A blast of air came from Nine-Tails' mouth, and the tailed beast bomb was instantly released, grazing the foreheads of the Knights of God and hitting a pile of celestial dragons in the distance. There was a huge explosion, and the entire Mariejois was shaken. The Knights of God stared blankly at the destroyed Mariejois behind them, their eyes gradually turned red, and they let out a chilling roar, and finally rushed towards Lin Chen like crazy. Just as Lin Chen was preparing to form another seal with his hands, a huge heat wave swept across the sky, and a stream of red magma turned into a human form and attacked Lin Chen. Dark Hound. Lin Chen held the fan in front of him, and Akainu obviously knew that the fan had good defensive power, so his fist became more solid, but what greeted him was the ridicule in Lin Chen's purple eyes. Shinra Tenzhang. A strong repulsion pushed Akainu away, but 2 people appeared behind him, Garp and Zephyr. Lin Chen frowned slightly when he saw the 3 reinforcements coming over. Now even he felt a little bit in trouble. At the same time, in the 5 elders conference room, the 5 people also looked at the live broadcast with gloomy expressions. This is bad. Cut off the live broadcast. I didn't expect Madara to be so powerful. But with the support of 3 people from Akainu, it shouldn't be a problem. And tell Kizaru to come here quickly. That Thunder Boy can't be left alone. CP0's request for help is almost overflowing. The dragon in Sabayati Archipelago made a decision as soon as he saw the 3 Akainus. Lao Sha, go support Lin Chen and the others. We will go if necessary. Crocodile nodded and immediately set off towards Mariejois. Just when Rayleigh wanted to say something else, the live broadcast screen suddenly closed, which surprised everyone watching the live broadcast. After thinking for a while, Long figured out the reason. It seems that the 5 elders don't want them to see Lin Chen destroying Mariejois anymore. But it's hard to tell if he faces so many strong men by himself. Everyone get out of here. While Long and Rayleigh were still thinking about their next move, a noise in the distance attracted their attention. A large number of Marines appeared in the Sabayati Archipelago, which surprised them. At the same time, the phone bug also started ringing. Tiger's voice was a little anxious, full of panic. Marine appears around the Fishman Island. Who is leading the team? We haven't found anything yet, but this group of Marines seems to be the vanguard. Hearing Tiger's words, Long took a breath of relief. Combining the news of the past 2 days, he soon understood. After exploring the surroundings, Long said to Rayleigh, go to the ship plating factory now. Maybe we can stop Marine. The 2 looked at each other and immediately disappeared, heading towards the shipyard. But what made Long confused was who would be the general leading the team this time. Akainu appears in Mariejois. Is he the 2 remaining admirals? If this were the case, even he would find it a little difficult to handle, but fortunately Rayleigh was here to help him relieve a lot of pressure. Lin Chen in Mariejois looked at the 8 people opposite him and felt a headache. Even though he had the world's top combat power, he couldn't withstand the attack of these 8 people. The biggest advantage of admiral-level experts is that they are difficult to kill. Each of these 8 people has very strong vitality. It is very difficult to kill one of these 8 people, but it is not impossible. Slowly coming to the ground, Lin Chen glanced at Garp and Zephyr first. Garp was still the same, but his eyes were a little more questioning. Zephyr looked at him with a somewhat complicated look. He looked at him fiercely at one moment, and hesitantly at the other. This is all related to what Sengoku said to him. Now even he has some doubts in his heart. Is there really a hidden reason behind the destruction of Dressrosa as Sengoku said? But Lin Chen didn't think so much. Using the same move again, Lin Chen slapped his hand on the ground, and 2 coffins slowly rose from the ground. A look of shock flashed across the eyes of the 7 people on the opposite side, and Garp guessed something. One of the 2 coffins had the word, dragon, engraved on it, and the other had the word, light, engraved on it. As the lid of the coffin fell, 2 figures wearing black robes and masks stood up. Lin Chen stepped forward and inserted the talisman behind the 2 of them. At this moment, Lin Chen naturally would not let the 2 of them play freely and took control. Okay. Now it's a little fair, come on. Chapter 132 The 5 Elders Take Action. A reversal of the situation. Advertise here. This time, Lin Chen did not stand on Ninetail's head. He reminded Ninetails in a low voice and said, "Don't fight here, stay away from here, and destroy this place to your heart's content. Help me share some of the pressure, and at the same time, if you are in danger, yourself run back." Kurama glanced sideways at Lin Chen and knew that this was a relatively important battle. He did not continue to bicker with Lin Chen and turned around and ran in one direction. Seeing Ninetails turn around and leave, the 5 Knights of God immediately wanted to catch up, but were stopped by Ryoma and Kazuki Oden. But he only stopped 2 people. Looking at the 3 people who were about to step over, Lin Chen didn't hesitate at all. A bright light appeared in his hand and was aimed at the 3 people. Dust escape. Original realm stripping technique. A huge light appeared, but the 3 Akainu rushed over immediately. Great eruption. Looking at the lava that was about to rush over, Lin Chen tilted his hand slightly to annihilate all the lava that was flying over, but he also missed the Knights of God. Out of the corner of his eye, he glanced at the backs of the 2 Knights of God who rushed over. Lin Chen could only pray silently in his heart that Kurama would have better luck. To be honest, he didn't let them go on purpose, but the 3 of them, Garp Akainu Zephyr, put more pressure on him. The Ryoma of Impure World Reincarnation is relatively weak. At the same time, because the 2 of them are not free to play and rely on Lin Chen's distracted control, their strength is weaker than that of free play. But relying on the characteristics of Impure World Reincarnation's body, it can also fight 2 Knights of God. In this way, Lin Chen only had to face 3 people from Akainu and 1 Knight of God, which reduced the pressure a lot. HMPH. Madara. How dare you be so arrogant? Breaking into Mariejois without permission to cause destruction. I've already killed a guy like you. Akainu looked at Lin Chen coldly and showed no mercy in his mouth. Lin Chen glanced at Akainu, said nothing, and focused on Zephyr and another Knight of God. Wood style. The tree world is coming. Sage art. Wood style. True several thousand hands. Akainu looked at the trees surging on the ground, with a solemn look in his eyes. It's this move again. Although he said this, Akainu also knew that he could no longer allow Lin Chen to behave like this, so he transformed into lava and immediately rushed forward. Garp and Zephyr looked at each other, followed Akainu's footsteps and faced Lin Chen, but another Knights of God's phone rang. You are a bunch of trash. Control the battlefield. Don't let the situation expand. The 5 elders hung up the phone angrily. The 5 looked at each other and immediately stood up, preparing to go to the main battlefield. The movement brought by Lin Chen was too powerful. At the same time, they also regretted why the battlefield was chosen in Mariejois. Now they could only pray that it did not affect that adult. Standing on the huge wooden statue, Lin Chen leaned over and looked at Mariejois. At this moment, he seemed to be able to destroy this place with just a raise of his hand, but soon Garp brought him back to reality. Fist bone. Shatter the sky. Shinra Tenzheng. Shinra Tenzheng, who was very powerful in the past, was a little stiff now. Looking carefully, Garp's fist seemed to be punching in hard against this powerful repulsive force, but in the end Garp flew away upside down. Shaking his arm, Garp looked at Lin Chen with serious eyes for the first time. It seems I can't break that thing without using all my strength. There's something. As soon as Garp finished, Zephyr flashed in front of Lin Chen with a grin on his face. The murderer of the Dressrosa incident. Pay the price for your actions. Seeing Zephyr's arms flashing with dazzling black light, he punched himself in the face. Lin Chen could only duck and distance himself from him, and at the same time formed another seal. Wood style. Wood dragon technique. Dozens of wooden dragons spewed out from the huge wooden statue and rushed straight towards Garp Zephyr. Akainu on the other side had quietly circled back, with red flames showing on his hands. Dog bites Gurren. Shinra Tenzheng. Switching back to Rinnegan, Lin Chen forced Akainu back with a spicy strike, but the continuous attacks also made him feel a little pressure. At the same time, it also reminded him of the auction in Sika country. It was the same as this one, but the Garp trio had much more experience facing them. I am no longer forced to panic by my wood style like the first time. After seeing the 3 of them entangled in his wooden dragon, Lin Chen took a deep breath. On top. Don't underestimate our Knights of God. Madara. A figure flashed in front of him. Lin Chen just wanted to release Shenluo Tianzhong again but found that it was a bit difficult to use. He could only give up releasing the move and meet the opponent's attack. The 2 fisted each other, and Lin Chen shot his emission into the opponent's body, but soon felt that the other person did the same. Narrowing his eyes, Lin Chen turned his fist into a palm and pinched the opponent's hand. At the same time, he quickly got closer, and the sound of electric current erupted from his body. The 2 of them were fighting at close quarters. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Lin Chen's left eye immediately emitted a wave of waves, and at the same time he pulled out the long knife from his waist and stabbed the other's neck. Brush. A stream of blood dispersed, and Lin Chen raised his head and looked coldly at the old man holding a long knife on the side. The Knight of God who had been held in his hand before was holding his arms and screaming in pain. One of his arms had already dropped to the ground. Young man, don't fight. At the same time, 4 other figures also appeared beside him. Seeing the 5 elders appearing, Garp could only pretend that he had just broken free from the wooden dragon that tied him, and came to Lin Chen with Zephyr Akainu. Boom. There was a roar in Mariejois in the distance. Looking out of the corner of my eye, I saw two streams of light, one blue and one yellow, fighting in the air. Soon the blue light couldn't hold on and fell on a building. Also on the other side, Kurama finally couldn't withstand the attack of the two Knights of God, and disappeared into a white smoke. And Kurama's angry voice also came from Lin Chen's heart. What two tough ants. Damn it. They are so fast. If I hadn't been so big, I wouldn't have lost. Okay. Get ready. I need to enter Jinchuriki mode. Now is the hard fight. Chapter 133 Fierce Battle. Planetary Devastation. As soon as Lin Chen finished speaking, Nine Tails was already ready. A powerful chakra burst out from Lin Chen's body, and the golden Nine Tails coat began to appear from Lin Chen's body. This scene made everyone around them feel uncomfortable. The five elders looked at each other with a cruel look in their eyes, frowned and shouted, "Everyone, come together." Lin Chen looked at the enemy rushing towards him, the Sharingan in his eyes turning rapidly, and he was also thinking about countermeasures. The two figures just now should be Enel and Kizaru fighting, but it's a pity that they couldn't hold on for a while longer. The two enemies of the Knights of God who defeated Kurama will arrive later, so we must fight quickly now. Wood style. Wood expulsion jutsu. Before the enemy's attack fell, Lin Chen immediately used this move to resist. A huge wooden mask covered Lin Chen's body, blocking all attacks. Under defense, Lin Chen aimed his hands in front of him, and white light began to gather in his hands. The people outside were still trying to break through the defense, but a huge sense of horror had begun to fill everyone's hearts. Dust escape. Limitation stripping technique. Boom. Under the enhanced dust escape, the previous Knight of God who had lost an arm was annihilated into powder on the spot, and the people around him were able to escape the range, fear lingering in their hearts. Can you foresee the future? Seeing that only one person died from this move, Lin Chen understood in his heart that the people in front of him were probably very knowledgeable. Wood style. Wood dragon technique. Wood style. Wooden golem jutsu. Wood style. The world of flowers and trees has arrived. A large amount of chakra spurted out, and countless pieces of wood began to turn into moves to attack the enemy. Lin Chen also disappeared among the countless pieces of wood. With the blessing of Nine Tails chakra, Lin Chen's speed and physical fitness have reached a new level. More importantly, a pair of big hands will appear from the Nine Tails coat to assist him. This greatly improved his melee abilities, and this time his target of choice was none other than Zephyr. He ducked in front of Zephyr. Zephyr was also startled. He had been fending off various flying wooden dragons before, but he didn't expect Lin Chen to take the initiative to come to him. The two punched each other in the air. The experienced Zephyr naturally knew that he was no match for Lin Chen in a single fight, so he immediately dodged and wanted to leave. Not far away was where Garp was. Universal pull. What? A force of gravity erupted from Lin Chen's hand, and Zephyr's body in the air began to fly towards Lin Chen involuntarily. Damn it. Don't underestimate me. Realizing that he could not withstand this gravitational force, Zephyr immediately took a fighting stance, covering his hands with armed colors, hoping to seize the opportunity when he was close to Lin Chen. Shinra Tenzheng. Before Zephyr could get close to Lin Chen, he was pushed away by a strong repulsive force. At the same time, countless wooden dragons began to fly out of the trees on the ground and wrap themselves around Zephyr, opening their ferocious mouths and biting Zephyr's shoulders. However, except for the broken teeth of the wood dragon, Zephyr did not suffer any substantial damage. Glancing at the armament hockey on Zephyr's shoulder, Lin Chen ducked in front of Zephyr again, and Zephyr was trying with all his strength to break free from the wooden dragon that restrained him. Without being polite, Lin Chen punched Zephyr hard on the abdomen, and emission was also flying inside Zephyr's body. After receiving this blow, Zephyr couldn't help spitting out a mouthful of blood, and began to roar. Ah! After breaking open the wooden dragon that was wrapping around him, Zephyr's naked upper body attacked Lin Chen again. The two kept fighting in the air, and bursts of sonic booms could be heard in the air. There was another fight. Lin Chen held Zephyr's fist tightly with both hands. At the same time, a pair of big clenched hands extended from Nine Tails' coat and hit Zephyr hard. After suffering this blow, Zephyr hit the trees on the ground like an upside-down meteor. As huge flowers opened one after another, Zephyr immediately couldn't help coughing after inhaling the gas, and began to breathe at the same time. Becomes difficult. Boy! Garp's voice appeared behind Lin Chen. Lin Chen turned his head slightly and said, "If you don't want Zephyr to die, then leave quickly." Lin Chen's voice was not loud, but everyone present could hear it. In the previous battle, the medicine on Zephyr's body had been hit somewhere. At this time, Zephyr suffered a heavy blow from Lin Chen, inhaled the pollen in the air, and had another asthma attack. Looking at Zephyr on the ground struggling to breathe, Garp clenched his fists with a look of dilemma on his face, and finally rushed towards Zephyr resolutely, preparing to take him out of here. Garp. Seeing this, the five elders wanted to stop him, but Garp ignored him and they took Zephyr and left the battlefield. Hateful. Seeing that the obstruction was fruitless, several people could only focus on Lin Chen again, and the wooden golem summoned by Lin Chen before was also completely destroyed at this moment. Lin Chen took a deep breath. Although he felt a little tired at this time, he was still able to fight again. First, he fought with the Knights of God, and then fought with the 3 Akainu who came over. When he was about to kill the Knight of God, he was stopped by the 5 elders who came to support him. After thinking about the countermeasures, he destroyed one of the God's Knights with lightning speed, and then used the same moves just now to force Zephyr Garp out of the field. Although the amount of chakra is almost unlimited after having 9 tails, it actually consumes a lot of physical strength. Boom. Suddenly there was an explosion from a distant building, attracting everyone's attention, and then a burst of purple circles shot straight into the sky. Seeing this scene, Lin Chen breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that Yishao finally took action. What it is. As soon as the 5 elders finished speaking, a meteorite hit Mariejois in the sky, causing the pupils of everyone present to shrink sharply. But soon 2 black spots came up to meet him, and at the same time, there was a powerful slash flying into the sky from the ground. The 5 elders holding the knife narrowed his eyes, and then also swung his knife towards the meteorite in the sky. In the end, the meteorite in the sky lived up to expectations and was destroyed, turning into tiny stones and hitting Mariejois. CP0, who secretly protected the celestial dragons, also breathed a sigh of relief. This way, the safety of the celestial dragons was not so dangerous. Dark Hound. A burning sensation hit Lin Chen's back, and at the same time, the 5 elders came to Lin Chen's side instantly. Shinra Tenzhang. What Lin Chen didn't expect was that the 6 people's attacks hit his own repulsion defense almost at the same time. Black and red lightning kept shooting out from the intersection of the attacks from both sides. In the end, Lin Chen flew out instantly and hit the wooden statue behind him, causing bursts of smoke. Ahem, quite smart, but unfortunately I didn't take precautions and was ejected. The location where Yishao activates his ability is basically the same as that of Enel. The 2 of them are facing Kizaru and 2 Knights of God. Ryoma can't hold on for long. Standing up and dusting himself off, Lin Chen just looked up and saw Akainu flying over again. He's really good at fighting. Lin Chen murmured in his heart, and just as he was about to take action, he noticed a huge yellow wave sweeping over, cutting across Akainu's body in an instant. Did I come at the right time? Lao Sha, who had cut Akainu's body, came to Lin Chen's side. At the same time, a man in black robes also came here. He only had many wounds on his body, but he was holding something in his hand. Before the smoke dissipated, the man in black robe immediately turned into a puff of smoke and disappeared, and the thing in his hand fell into Lin Chen's hand. But judging from the memories transmitted by the clone, Lin Chen was also a little more alert in his heart. Lao Sha, we must prepare to retreat. It's too late. By the way, Rayleigh just told me about their situation. Marine made a surprise attack on the Fishman Island. The leaders were Sengoku and Aokiji, and now he and Long are blocking it. Then we should prepare to retreat. I will give them a big one before leaving. Before the 2 of them finished their conversation, a slash rushed towards the 2 of them, and they were separated instantly. When the smoke dissipated, the 5 elders holding a long knife stared coldly at Lin Chen and the 2, and Kizaru had quietly appeared beside him. What's going on over there? Why is there a meteorite? Kizaru scratched his head, thought for a moment and said, he's a guy with unknown origins. But since he chose to protect Enel, it must have something to do with Dawn. Damn it, we must keep all of them here today. No one can be let out. Listening to 5 elders' boastful words, Lin Chen looked at the other party and saw that there was no nonsense. He put his hands together and a black ball slowly floated out. Planetary Devastation. Chapter 134. How many floors does a bag of rice have to carry? The earth is shaking, the buildings are crumbling, and even the sky seems to be shaking. The 5 elders all looked shocked. Looking at the countless buildings and land slowly rising, the strong gravity emitted by the black sphere gave them a feeling that there was no way to escape. Porcelino. What is this? Even though the ground he stepped on had begun to rise into the sky, Kizaru's face remained calm and he said unhurriedly, this seems to be the move Madara used in Eni's lobby. It's really scary. After hearing Kizaru's words, the 5 elders gritted their teeth and could only stare at Lin Chen angrily, and then said anxiously, stop talking nonsense, if this continues, the entire Mariejois will be destroyed. Is there any way to stop it? Kizaru's glasses flashed with white light, then he pointed his finger at the black sphere in the sky and said, try to attack. Dust Escape. Original Realm Stripping Technique. Seeing that Kizaru was about to launch an attack, Lin Chen immediately stopped him, but Kizaru turned into a flash of light and disappeared. Seeing that Lin Chen took the initiative to stop Kizaru, the 5 elders also released their own attack moves to attack the black ball in the sky. Seeing this, Lin Chen did not stop him. The purpose of planetary devastation at this time is to delay time, and this trick cannot be used as a decisive method. Turning to look at Crocodile beside him, Lin Chen whispered, go find Enel and Yishao and take them away together. As he spoke, Lin Chen patted Crocodile's shoulder, and the Flying Thunder God's technique was left on it. There are still 2 Knights of God there. Don't be reluctant to fight, take them and leave immediately. You have the spell I left on you, I will rush over. Crocodile nodded, looked at Ryoma and Kazuki Oden on the other side, and said, those 2 guys don't matter. They looked like they were beaten badly. Lin Chen shook his head and said, "Don't worry, let's go." After hearing Lin Chen's words, Crocodile no longer hesitated and immediately turned around and turned into yellow sand and disappeared into the sky. Looking at Crocodile's leaving figure, Lin Chen breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. After taking a look at the people attacking the black ball, Lin Chen disappeared in an instant. At the same time, the other two Knights of God who had been fighting Ryoma and Kazuki Oden were exhausted and panting. What on earth are these two monsters? Damn it. They are so weak, why can they keep resurrecting? As soon as he finished speaking, the Knights of God felt a gust of cold wind behind their foreheads, and a terrifying feeling rushed straight from the soles of their feet to their foreheads. It was the breath of death. Brush. The sound of the blade cutting through flesh resounded throughout the place, and blood splashed all over Lin Chen. Looking at his colleagues who were split into two by Lin Chen, the eyes of another Knight of God slowly widened, and his heart was filled with huge panic, and he turned around to run away. However, in his sight, Lin Chen's eyes burst out with an extremely threatening red light, and then his body became unable to move, and even his brain stopped thinking at this moment. Another huge human head flew up. Lin Chen didn't feel any emotion in his heart, and threw the bloodline on the long knife to the side of the road. Madara. Hearing an angry voice, Lin Chen looked up. I saw that the five elders had finished dealing with the black ball in the sky, but without the gravitational restraint of the black ball, many buildings and stones fell one after another, hitting Mariejois heavily. The wailing of countless people could even be heard in the distance. Looking at the corpses beside Lin Chen, one had been split into two, and the other had become a headless corpse. The five elders had never been so angry, and the calm attitude they usually maintained disappeared at this moment. At the same time, an unspeakable fear also arose in their hearts. The man in front of them could really cause them huge casualties. The previous contempt for Dawn was just that they did not see Madara's true methods. But now, at this moment, everyone's hearts are cast a shadow on the masked man in front of them. Madara's power can already cause serious damage to the world government. Feel the anger. Feeling fear. Feel the hatred. Lin Chen said lightly while cutting off the flesh and blood of the two Knights of God, while Ryoma and Kazuki Oden also turned into white smoke and disappeared. Hearing Lin Chen's calm yet devilish whisper, the five elders swallowed their dry throats and became nervous again. There was the crackling sound of flames burning ruins in the distance, and the destruction caused by Lin Chen cast waves of gray-black smoke in the sky of Mariejois. Save! 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 A murmur came from the ruins on the side, and along with a small stone rolling down at Lin Chen's feet, a young woman tried her best to push away the wood that was pressing on her body, but her lower body had been killed by the boulder. He was pressed tightly, and a bloody stream of blood flowed out. Everyone on the field looked at the woman coldly, because the slave collar around her neck had announced her identity. The only ones left here at this time are just some slaves. After all, it is an emergency retreat. It is not easy to take care of all the celestial dragons. Who would have the thought to take care of these slaves? There are as many of these things as there are. Even if all the slaves die, there will be countless new slaves sent to Mariejois. This is the supreme power and enjoyment brought by the identity of celestial dragons. Lin Chen walked over step by step, and the five elders also looked at Lin Chen's next movements carefully as if facing a formidable enemy, but they did not expect that Lin Chen just came to the slave. Through the large bite marks and whip marks on his skin, it is not difficult to imagine the inhuman treatment this slave once suffered. The slave saw a pair of feet standing in front of him, but he was too weak to raise his head and see the face of the man in front of him clearly. Spicy Tianson, who gave you a bag of rice? After all preparations were made, Lin Chen's body slowly floated up. The five elders narrowed their eyes, always prepared to resist Lin Chen's attack. How many floors does a bag of rice have to carry? And that pile of black tiles and rubbish. Hearing the woman's request, Lin Chen was slightly startled, then squatted down and held the slave's cheeks with both hands. I need to wash a bag of rice. Looking at the traces of destruction around him, although he didn't know what happened, the fact that no whip fell on him now meant that the person in front of him was not a celestial dragon's. There's mud everywhere. The slave stretched out a hand with difficulty, slowly grabbed a corner of Lin Chen's robe, and said hoarsely, "Kill me. I washed so much mud out of one bag of rice. HMPH. What are the violent criminals pretending to be like now? A bag of rice needs to resist the second floor." The moment the two people looked into each other's eyes, the slave's breathing stagnated, but before she died, the corners of her mouth slowly raised. After going through so much, they no longer dared to attack Lin Chen casually. Who knew whether he would use some strange moves again, and the Knights of God who were used as blades were gone at this moment. It was a pity for their lives. Naturally, they will not take risks. How much do you want me to give you for a bag of rice? Lin Chen ignored the five elders and took a deep breath. His previous physical strength had also recovered a lot. After careful inspection, he could tell that the warlock of Flying Thunder God was getting further and further away. This also meant that Crocodile I have already started to leave here with Enel and Yishao. The five elders who were staring at Lin Chen attentively heard Lin Chen start to murmur. Chapter 135 The End of Everything. Advertise here. As Lin Chen finished preparing his ultimate move, an extremely dazzling white light pierced everyone's eyes. Then, with Lin Chen as the center, a powerful and destructive repulsive force swept wildly around, and everything in its path was instantly destroyed. Madara. The five elders' eyes were split open, and everyone was shocked by this powerful blow. Thinking of Mariejois' ending next, the five elders felt despair. It's so scary. Before the repulsive force arrived, Kizaru also showed a frightened expression, and then disappeared in a flash of light. Akainu glanced at the five elders who were staying in place, and after thinking for a moment, he turned into a hot cloud and exited the battlefield. This battle is meaningless now. When the repulsive force swept through the five elders, the roar resounded in everyone's ears. Any action of the five elders in front of this devastating move seemed extremely futile. Even if they really tried to resist, they could not save Celestial. The fact that dragons suffered so many casualties. What's more, the center of Mariejois is in ruins, and this repulsive force has swallowed up everything. In a sense, at this moment, celestial dragons and ordinary people are truly equal, even the celestial dragons protected by CP0 are not immune. Lin Chen stood high in the sky overlooking all this, and a majestic momentum swept over Mariejois. At this moment, Lin Chen had turned into the lingering devil in the hearts of celestial dragons. And those few celestial dragons who survived are destined to remember this scene forever, and they will never dare to have any evil thoughts towards Lin Chen and Li Xiao again. This time they have learned a painful lesson, at the cost of 80% of the celestial dragons being slaughtered by Lin Chen, Mariejois being destroyed, and the Knights of God being severely damaged. In an unknown shadow, Doflamingo swallowed his throat and watched everything in horror. The devil-like man in the sky was deeply reflected in his mind. As this Madara, as if he had thought of something, Doflamingo smiled bitterly and looked a little depressed. Is this kind of power really achievable by humans? It seems that I really made a bad move. Soon Doflamingo recovered from his depression and began to think seriously. This guy Madara will definitely not let me go, and this time the five elders may hold me responsible afterwards, so it's better to run away. I didn't expect that the world government can't withstand Dawn now. Even if Mariejois is destroyed, it won't be used. That national treasure, damn it. Doflamingo punched the wall angrily. This time he finally understood what it meant to be thankless. I thought I had escaped the clutches of Dawn, and used Monet and Rocinante to counter Dawn and seek my own interests from the world government, but I didn't expect it to end like this. It can only be said that any strategy pales in comparison to absolute strength. Lin Chen, who had done all this in the sky, did not relax his vigilance at this time. The red eyes in the memory from Shadow Clone really made him pay attention. I'm afraid that's the person behind the throne of the celestial dragons, I am. Thinking of the power of the weapon that once destroyed Dressrosa, Lin Chen did not intend to continue causing trouble in Mariejois. Enel's current injury condition is unknown, and Lao Sha also brought news that the Fishman Island was attacked. All kinds of things need to be handled by him now. Furthermore, the purpose of coming to Mariejois has been achieved. Not only did he rescue Monet and Rocinante, but he also destroyed Mariejois, severely damaged the Knights of God, etc. All of these have been fruitful. If the fight continues, we still don't know if the man deep in Mariejois will take action. Now that he can do this, Lin Chen is satisfied. If he continues, the risk will increase. Thinking of this, Lin Chen no longer hesitated, carefully perceived the Flying Thunder God's technique and then disappeared instantly. Although Lin Chen has left, the wailing on Mariejois still continues. The five elders emerged from a pile of ruins with a look of embarrassment on their bodies, but looking around, what they saw had already caused their brains to shut down. Is this Mariejois? If it weren't for Kizaru strolling over from a distance carrying a celestial dragons, they really thought they were teleported somewhere by Lin Chen. Arriving in front of the five elders, Kizaru looked at the time out of habit, then put the celestial dragons in his hand on the ground and said, there is no point in continuing now. Even I can't catch up with that guy. Touching his chin, Kizaru turned to leave. Before leaving, he said somewhat bitterly, I can only hope that Marine's battle plan can succeed. If it fails, haha, just pretend I didn't say it. Maybe it's time to strengthen our strength. Most of the manpower that Marine can mobilize have come to Mariejois, I just hope that they can succeed there. With that said, Kizaru turned into a flash of light and disappeared. This place was no longer something he could handle. As a Marine, although he was nominally directly under the jurisdiction of the world government, he was too lazy to take over the mess of Mariejois now. Increase Marine's power. The five elders pondered what Kizaru said before he left. 3 people of the Knights of the God of War were killed, and their combat strength was indeed seriously insufficient. If Madara brings all the Dawn members to attack Mariejois again next time, their doom will come. However, the only thing that the 5 elders were thankful for in this battle was that the live broadcast was cut off very early. Except for a few people in the world, no one knew that Mariejois had become a ruins. And the planned execution of the 2 Monets to attack Daybreak's strength and prestige around the world also seems extremely ironic in today's Mariejois situation. Well, the 5 elders looked at each other and sighed heavily. There were many puzzling things in their hearts, but they did not dare to ask the adult why he did not take action to stop Madara. They believed that if the adult took action, Mariejois would not change. It became what it is now. When everything was settled, Lin Chen had no intention of paying attention to Mariejoi's follow-up. At this moment, he was leading Crocodile and others to the Sabayati archipelago quickly, and he also hoped that nothing would happen to Rayleigh and the others. Soon Lin Chen and others arrived at Sabayati archipelago, and at the same time, good news reached his ears. Rayleigh, Long and Jinbei teamed up to repel Sengoku and Aokiji. Tiger and Tezzolo also relied on the geographical advantage of the Fishman Island to successfully repel Marine. Since then, the crisis in the Fishman Island has come to an end. After everyone finished packing and arrived at the Fishman Island, Monet and Rocinante also met Sugar and Luo again. For a moment, the two children couldn't bear it anymore and threw themselves into their arms and started crying. It is worth mentioning that Lin Chen had already removed the slave marks on Monet and Rocinante on the way here with everyone, but in order to remove the marks in their hearts, they had to pass that level. Lin Chen also felt a little guilty about this. If he could have been in charge of Dressrosa, then all this would not have happened. Monet, who was hugging Sutang, looked at Lin Chen's disappointed look from the corner of her eye. Being smart, she quickly understood what Lin Chen was thinking, and walked to Lin Chen's side. Lin Chen looked at Monet. He was about to say the words in his heart, but he suppressed them. The girl's hug caught him off guard. Brother Lin Chen has done a great job, thank you. The girl's tears ran across her face and fell into Lin Chen's chest. Lin Chen's face flashed with astonishment, surprise, and unnaturalness, but in the end all his thoughts turned into his raised arm, which gently fell on Monet's head. As long as you're okay. Perhaps hearing Lin Chen's answer, Monet hugged Lin Chen's arm a little harder, and at the same time stopped the tears that were about to fall again. Those tears turned into pieces of snow crystals before they could flow down. After a long time, Monet let go of Lin Chen, turned around and hugged Sutang again as if nothing had happened. Seeing this, Lin Chen also breathed a sigh of relief. After seeing the two separated, Long came to Lin Chen and asked eagerly, Lin Chen, how is Mariejois? It's no wonder that Long is anxious. The Revolutionary Army's first task is to overthrow the world government, so the results of Lin Chen's trip are very important to him. Lin Chen and Long looked at each other, and finally gave the answer that Long wanted most, but it was far beyond his expectations. Mariejois was destroyed by me. Looking at the stunned Long, Lin Chen smiled, and then told everything he had done after entering Mariejois exactly as it was, and suddenly the air around him was a little quiet. What's wrong? Haven't you recovered yet? Lin Chen's joking voice was particularly prominent in the silent crowd. Long and Rayleigh looked at each other with disbelief in their eyes, then turned their attention to Enel, smiled, and the crocodile trio. After learning similar things from the three of them, they finally believed what Lin Chen said. Long touched his chin, looked at Lin Chen and asked, what's next? What are you going to do? Lin Chen glanced around, then focused on Yixiao and asked, I wonder if Mr. Yixiao found the answer during this trip. Yixiao was a little stunned when he heard this, then nodded and sighed. I didn't expect there to be so much ugliness there, alas. Even through Hokage, I can feel the powerful wail in their hearts. Seeing this, Lin Chen immediately extended his olive branch and asked, join us in overthrowing the world government. End this era. Yixiao did not hesitate. He was already expecting to be invited by Lin Chen. Although his dream at the beginning was to join Marine, it would be good to join Daybreak now, and they can bring more changes to the world. Well, it's a pity that I can't see clearly what kind of person you are. What a pity. Lin Chen smiled, and everyone welcomed the new members. Lin Chen then answered Long Gang's question. I want to go back to East Blue first. I feel a little tired. Long Duo glanced at Lin Chen a few times and nodded. That's fine. Let's relax after the battle. It's been a while since I've seen the little ones. Everyone prepared their own preparations, and then a large number of people rushed to East Blue. On the other side, Kizaru also brought a lot of news about Mariejois back to naval headquarters. When Sengoku learned the news, he was struck by lightning. He can accept the failure of world government, but he cannot accept the news from Kizaru. Mariejois destroyed. Celestial dragons slaughtered. The Knights of God suffered a heavy blow. Every piece of news casts a shadow over Sengoku. Is the price too high? Although he was shocked, Sengoku quickly recovered. After thinking about the matter clearly, he now had to face a fact. Today, Marine is the last trump card that the world government can rely on. After the world government's power has suffered a heavy blow, the next confrontation with Daybreak will be theirs, Marine. When he thought of this, Sengoku looked a little embarrassed and his brows knitted together tightly. It's not that he's afraid of Daybreak, it's just that he feels that Daybreak's difficulty has reached an incredible level. Even dealing with the Marine Emperor of New World is not so difficult. Taking a deep breath, Sengoku knew that the time had come for him to stand up. Prepare the previous information. I will personally interview the 5 elders. Kizaru looked at Sengoku with sharp eyes at this time and said with a smile, can I know who they are? Sengoku looked at Kizaru, as if confirming something, then sighed and said, you will know sooner or later anyway. After regaining his composure, Sengoku began to recall in his mind, and then said, currently, I have 2 candidates for Marine, but they still need the recognition of Marine soldiers and you. Although the combat power may not be as good as you old admirals, but the potential is it's very sufficient, and if you give them time to grow, they will be able to support them. Are they those 2 Marine rising stars? Yes, Cake and Guillaume are much stronger than other vice admirals. Guillaume has fought against Madara more than once. These battles have also tempered her a lot. I believe she can grow up. Quote. What about the other candidates? Start the world recruitment. Choose the best among the many candidates. Then have a duel with Cake Guillaume. Choose the best 3 among them. Award them to the admiral. At the end of the 2nd volume of Daybreak, the power of the world government is no longer a concern. Except for IM and the remaining power behind it, maybe Vegapunk will bring them enough fighting candidates to revive. The 3rd volume, Summit War, will begin to eliminate pirates and fight against Marine. Will the Pirate Emperor of the New World allow Dawn to grow so powerful? Will Marine's edition of Admiral be approved by the world government? When the world government is really forced into a desperate situation, maybe he will also be hysterical and reach some agreement with some people in the underwater prison.